Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies. Buchanan?
Nuño.
Typically, I start off the show with like some thought that will take us down a path.
Okay.
We're going to do that soon.
All right.
But I think today's show is such a great show that I wanted to kind of go through what the show's going to have.
Okay, what we got?
Well, on the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations, we're going to have Olin Buchanan on the show.
I know that guy.
He's good. We're going to have Charean Williams.
Oh, I know her. She's really great.
Typical Tuesday at that point.
Okay.
Then in the 9 o'clock hour, Justin Lanham, also typical Tuesday.
Okay. Gonna
Okay.
be talking some basketball.
Joni Taylor right after that.
Gonna be talking some more basketball.
Josh Pate after that.
Gonna be talking
Tight shirts and
lifting weight and
Yeah.
tight shirts.
yeah. And there's, you know,
I know
heard
you're
him.
excited about that.
I am. He's a good dude. I like him, and I know our subscribers like him, our listeners like him as well. So that's just through the 9 o'clock hour. Then at 10 o'clock, John Scheschuk.
Okay, gonna talk some baseball.
We're going to talk some baseball. Then after that, Seth Greenberg from
Gonna
ESPN.
talk some more basketball.
More basketball.
Okay.
National personalities,
Yeah.
local personalities, little flavor, little sazon.
Which one does Charean Williams qualify as?
She's national, local.
Locally national, nationally local.
Regionally, nationally, locally.
Yeah.
That's the show today.
Universally.
Universally beloved.
Yeah.
Great Aggie. There's certain guests that I know, all right, I'm not going to ask them about women's tennis because I don't think they watch it. Or I'm not going to ask about volleyball this week. Or I'm not going to ask about basketball because they're not a basketball person. Charean, throw it up in the air.
It's A&M.
She knows it.
Yeah.
Pate State, though.
I could talk to Charean for an hour about football. And Josh Pate really knows college football.
Yeah.
So, in fact, of all the website or,
College Football Insiders?
podcasts
Yeah.
out there for insiders nationally, I think that's the best one.
Yeah, he's informative. He has
Very balanced.
and he's just a very likable personality.
Yeah.
There are others that are good at what they do, but I wouldn't say they're likable personality. I'm not saying they're unlikable, but like he's like a guy you want to have a beer with if you drink beer.
Does he drink beer?
I would assume
He
every
looks
once
like
in
a
while.
guy that's kind of a carrot juice,
Yeah, he might do that.
Protein shakes all the time kind of guy.
I mean,
Kinda like
Billy does that.
This guy.
You know, I've been reading the
Yeah,
ingredients in the protein shakes. And
Yeah.
I'm starting to get a little worried. Everything's with seed oils. I'm anti-seed oil guy now.
No seed oil.
You know what that means?
Not really.
I didn't think so. So let's talk some football, shall we?
Oil that you extract from seeds.
Yes, there you go.
There you go.
Not always a good thing when it's heated. Never mind. We'll talk about this some other time. I want to talk some college football. I guess I should tell the people the name of the show. I told them the Go Hour. That part I did tell them. But this show is called TexAgs Live.
TexAgs Live.
Yeah. If we had a presenting sponsor, that name would be?
Why? We have so many.
Yeah. Well, there's no if to it. We do have
David
one.
Gardner's Jewelers.
Correct. And this particular room is?
This is the Rollo Insurance Studio.
Yeah, that's true. And this particular section of the Rollo Insurance Studio, I'm just going to cut out a little box.
Holistic Planning Cool Zone.
Where they can do what?
They can broker your investments if you're so interested in doing so. Tax time's coming up sooner than later. So they can help you with that and your estate planning, which brings you back to investments, and you have the rare opportunity to what?
Invest in pro sports.
Invest in pro sports.
By going to investinprosports.com. What a genius website to have. You imagine, somebody's out there like, oh, I'm interested in investing in pro sports. I'm just going to Google that. Oh, investinprosports.com. Boom.
Right. I'm thinking, I can't remember the website. But it's invest in pro sport but I want to invest in pro sports. So how can you forget?
I'm just going to try that to see if it works.
And it works.
It works. Anywho, let's talk about college football teams that, as of today, like as I was kind of thinking about this topic,
okay,
I re-remembered, if that's even a term, how difficult it is because I don't know who's in the draft, who's in the portal, who's this, who's that. How does he have so much eligibility? I don't know anything, right?
Yeah.
So based on the limited information we have on rosters, because a lot of these websites or team websites do not update everything about their roster, I want to talk about teams that take a step back in 25 as of today. Okay.
I've been doing some work on all that for teams that A&M plays next year.
Well, that's going to be part of our list as well.
I just got to get to Notre Dame. Got all the other.
I think Notre Dame's going to take a step back as of today.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's start off with Notre Dame. I'll tell you some names that won't be there next year.
Okay.
Xavier Watts.
No.
Benjamin Morrison.
Okay, that's the two best players in their secondary.
Howard Cross.
Howard Cross was a really good defensive lineman.
Riley Mills.
He's the other defensive lineman that got hurt, right?
Yeah, and Riley Leonard.
Right. Yeah, quarterback.
You can't. Can you? Sure. If you go heavily in the portal, you've been grooming. Texas is not on my list for next year because I still think they'll probably take a step back, but not into where I still think they'll be in the contention for a playoff spot. I think it'll be interesting with their schedule and a new quarterback. As of today, I'm not ready to say they have taken a huge step back. Notre Dame, as of today, there's so many questions. When you lose that many dudes to the NFL or just because of eligibility and guys that mattered for you, Riley Leonard is a winner. Regardless of being able to throw the ball down the field or not, the guy is a winner. They have to take a step back, right?
Probably. Now, typically their schedule is such that, let's just say it's not the most challenging. So they're able to
navigate through that.
Yeah. But look, the strength of their team last year was their defense and especially their secondary. You just talked about two of the better players on the secondary no longer there. I think they lost that linebacker, Kaiser, who's their best linebacker too. I think he's done. So they're going to have a lot of replacements. Now at Notre Dame, they usually recruit pretty well. So the next guy is going to be a good player typically, but is he going to be as good as the last guy?
Sure.
And if you're telling me that Xavier Watts was All-American and Benjamin Morrison is a Thorpe Award winner, or maybe I got those backwards, and you're telling me the next guy's going to do the same thing, I'm going to have to take the old Missouri approach. So you're going to have to show me on that because it just doesn't happen.
Now,
typically,
they're keeping some dudes too, right?
Yeah,
right?
Their offensive line's going to be good.
Yeah, their offensive line
not going to be deep.
Well, last year they weren't deep when they took on A&M.
Yeah,
and you know how that went.
Yeah, dude.
They'll be able to run the ball very effectively.
Got a good running back.
Yeah, right. Jeremiah Love is excellent. So they're not chopped liver, and as you expressed, their schedule is conducive to winning a lot of games. But I just can't imagine them being that level of team as of today. I'm sure we'll get spring reports.
I agree
back,
with that.
Right. Here's another one for you.
Okay.
The U.
Okay, Miami.
So look,
a team that's always hyped up every year.
They won 10 games last year. I wish we could have.
Well, if we would have been in the ACC, probably would have.
True. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Cam Ward is gone. Carson Beck is in. Carson Beck is fine. Whatever. He's not Cam Ward.
I agree. I always said, look at the difference in Carson Reed 2 years ago. Look, hey, this guy's a first-round pick kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey weren't there. And you get the feeling like maybe they were making him look better than he was. And he's always behind a really good offensive line. And supposedly the Miami offensive line is really good.
Yep.
Well, they're always talking about how great the talent is there. And yet, Miami won 10 games, but did anybody get more help from a fit?
There was at least two games where they were. Yeah.
So that'll be another one. Okay, Miami, I've been hearing for the last 4 years how good Miami's going to be.
Sure.
And they're never as good as they're hyped up to be.
But if you're a fan of them, 10 wins, regardless of how it came, just because the next team we're going to talk about also won 10 games in the SEC. I don't think they were as good as their record. I think they benefited from a very nice schedule, and they're about to lose some dudes. That team is Missouri.
Well, you just take Luther Burden out of that, but they're also going to lose Theo Weiss.
And Brady Cook.
So, and the strength of that that was the strength of that team right there.
Now, their schedule wasn't ridiculous last year, and it won't
It was
be ridiculous
probably
this
the
year.
easiest schedule
In the
based
SEC.
on the previous years.
Correct.
Yeah, in the SEC.
And they won 10 games.
They won 10.
I would gladly take 10 wins. I don't care how hard or easy the schedule is. I just want 10 wins.
Hey,
I don't
well,
want
that's
just
true.
want that.
You got to just, you don't put the schedule, the SEC schedule out there. Somebody gives it to you. So
Sure.
all you can do is play the games that they give you.
And by the way, A&M destroyed
Dominated.
them. It was not even like. And by the way, that game could have felt closer if they completed a couple of passes early on.
Or if
had a
they
cou-
didn't have penalties on
They didn't
some
have
of them,
penalties. That's right. All right, the next one. I am sorry. But I believe Colorado went 9-4 on the year.
Yeah. Is that what they did?
I think they went 9-4.
Yeah, they're not going to be as good.
You can't lose a Heisman Trophy winner and a first-round pick and quarterback and expect to be as good.
Shiloh, too, was was
Yeah.
a good player. So, I don't think they'll be as good. In fact, I'm surprised that, I guess pleasantly surprised that Deion's still around to coach them.
Yeah.
Kind of thought with his boys leaving, maybe he'd go too.
You know what's interesting about certain people in sports and in life? It can be politics, it can be movies. You hate them so much, and I'm not saying I hated Deion, that you eventually start liking them again. And Deion is like, I didn't like his act, but there are certain things I really like about him too. It's a weird thing with Deion because he makes it about himself, but I do think he generally loves the players that he loves. But there's some that he didn't love, so he let them go or he forced them out.
Well, every coach does that. He just did it in a more
Vocal way.
high-profile way.
Yeah. But I mean, when you hear him talk to his team, he does inspire. He does like his message a lot of times does resonate with me when I hear him speak to his team.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I think they're probably taking a step back.
Here's one that has to take a step back.
Okay, who has to?
Indiana.
I got to admit, I don't know who's coming back and who's not, but yeah,
Well, here's why.
they weren't as good as.
I don't remember their schedule per se, but I remember they had Ohio State. That was their hard game, right?
Yeah, it was.
This upcoming year, they're going on the road at Illinois,
Okay,
at Oregon,
all right.
at Penn State.
Yeah, that's probably at least 2 losses there.
So I
And
don't see them being as good.
No, I agree.
Here's one that I don't know if I thought they were good until the very end of the year, towards the end of the year, November. Arizona State.
Scattaboo is gonna
Scattaboo's
be
gone.
So
Levitt's
right
back.
there. Yeah, but Scattaboo was the.
I like Kenny Dillingham a lot, but Cam Scattaboo was that dude.
Yeah, you're not going to be as good without Scattaboo. You're not.
Not going to be as good without Scattaboo.
Scattaboo. In fact, there were people that were cheering them last year are going to be Scattabooing them this year.
Yeah, I see that.
I knew you were waiting for something.
They were a fun team to watch towards the end. I mean, not just because they took on Texas.
They were fun.
Yeah.
They were fun. The first time, one night, it might have been a Thursday or Friday night, and they happened to be on, and I saw Scattaboo play for the first time. I thought, man, I like that kid.
I think you talked about it the next day on the show.
I said, man, that guy's good. That's a good guy at Arizona State. I didn't know he's going to be as good as he was, but he's just that kind of dirty white boy player that appeals to a lot of people. Just gets every ounce of his ability, gives it everything he's got. I love that.
I'm going to give you one more team, and if you have some teams, please throw them in. South Carolina.
I don't see how they can be as good. Now, I like the quarterback. Everybody should.
Lenore Sellers.
And their receivers are interesting. I don't think any of them are that productive.
You know who went there? He's an Aggie. Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The defensive line.
Yeah, and Gabriel seemed like a really good dude, but he was always hurt or whatever. But I don't see, and they had that guy, I can't think of his name right offhand, who's a freshman 5-star guy, defensive lineman. He's back. But the Kennard's no longer there. I mean,
Sanders.
Goodbye. They've got, I think they lost 3 starters.
TJ Sanders.
TJ's a good one.
Yeah, he's the one on the defensive line.
But Tonka Hemingway is done, and there was another defensive lineman whose name escapes me right now that was pretty productive. So I just don't see that defense to be as good as it was last year, and that's why they won.
Look, that's based on intel as of today. We don't know if people are going to develop, how they develop. But as of today, I see those teams taking a step back. And 3 of the teams that I mentioned, am I right? Notre Dame, Missouri, and South Carolina on A&M schedule. So that is you look at A&M schedule, I think Florida will be better than they were last year.
Yeah.
They'll be better. Maybe not better than they were in November.
I wonder about defensively. They've had a lot of people leave through the portal on their defensive side, but some coming here.
As of today, can you say A&M will be better than they were last year? Today?
I think today I would say A&M is going to be very similar to last year in results. They're just going to get there differently. Because I said before, I'm looking at A&M and I'm projecting an explosive offense that's going to average 35 plus.
Okay.
But until I see it, you're going to have to convince me why the defense is going to be better. And I thought overall from start to finish, not middle of the year, but I thought overall the defense was grossly disappointing.
Yep. I don't disagree with you at all. I don't know, even last year I have a hard time predicting records because you look at the way that last season played out. Like, I don't think anybody expected a blowout against Missouri, and I don't think anybody expected that comeback against LSU at halftime. Right?
Yeah.
Like those are games. Like, I wasn't surprised they beat Missouri. By the way, it was just I don't know if LSU is going to take a step back this year. I think they might take a step up. I mean, everybody else has predicted them as a playoff team. I'm not there.
I'm not there either. I was just breaking down LSU recently. And you start with, they say, Nussmeier's really good unless he's under pressure. And then he gets under pressure, he throws interceptions. Okay. You've lost 3 offensive linemen, 2 were All-Americans. One I saw might be the 4th player taken in the draft in your tackles, Emory Jones and Will Campbell, and then the other kid whose name I can't remember, but he was just going crazy at the Senior Bowl. And you're going to say, the blocking is going to be as good as it was last year for a quarterback that has trouble under pressure.
Most quarterbacks, I think.
Most quarterbacks do, but they don't all throw interceptions in bunches.
But if most quarterbacks, if they don't have pressure, can throw dimes, right?
That's true.
At this level. So.
And I know they get the guy from Oklahoma in at receiver and the guy from Kentucky coming in at receiver, but I'm thinking receiver wasn't a problem last year. So are they really going to be that much better at receiver? I like their running back. And the defense, again, you're going to have to explain to me like I'm 6 years old why the defense is going to be significantly better. And you can't say, well, Harold Perkins was hurt. They weren't playing good defense with Harold Perkins.
Yeah. There is one player that I really do like at LSU.
And who's that?
Donovan Green.
Yeah, but
I like Donovan.
How much is he going to play? Because they love the other Green.
Yeah.
Long name. I can't think of his, like Tredavian or something like that. Green, the 6'7", 260-pound tight end that backed up Mason Taylor last year. And Mason Taylor, by the way, left.
I don't know if Green was going to play here. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I do like him as a receiving tight end,
and I do like him as a young man. Yes. I do like them. All right. Any team you want to add that will take a step back?
Step back.
Potentially take a step back.
Let me. I wish I'd had a little bit. Tennessee.
Okay.
Again, so much was made of their defense, and I'm not and Dylan Sampson, I think.
Is he gone?
I think he
was the identity of the team.
I think he entered the draft. Okay. I might have to go back and double check that.
Recheck that out for us.
Did Dylan Sampson, is he an early entry into the draft? I think so, but I could be mistaken. And I'm not sold on Iamaliva or on a jet plane. Defense, they had that defensive end, Pierce, that's supposed to be all world. I guess he was, but I know he's in the draft. So sometimes I just don't know that you can take certain players off of a team and expect to get better. So off the top of my head, I'd say Tennessee. Do you got something?
So he's projected to be a late 3rd or early 4th round pick.
Yeah,
so Dylan Sampson is in the draft.
Yes,
See, and that's, that right there.
That was the identity of the team. Yeah. He was the guy. All right, this is TexAgs Live. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us up or you can text us. If you call us, we'll pick it up there on the Bumpy's Catering hotline. Eat, drink, Bumpy's. Bumpy's has been around for 35 years, catering generations of families. Their mobile bar service is available for outdoor events. And ask about their bar bundle discount, 979-779-6417. A late edition of Going Around the Room. Excuse me. Let's say hi to Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
What's up?
The only 2 teams I have to throw out there for y'all are 2 SEC schools, and it's just because they're losing their starting quarterbacks, Alabama and Ole Miss. Do y'all think there's potential there for them to take a step back. I know they add a lot in the transfer portal, but I feel like anytime you've got a new quarterback in the first year, there's potential there for a big step back.
I feel like they've done really well. Ole Miss has done really well again in the portal. Lane's a good coach, man. He's a good coach. But I don't know what a good... If you can't make the playoffs with that team last year, I don't know if you're going to make the playoffs this year.
Trey Harris, is he going to be there? Jackson Dart's not going to be there.
Jackson Dart's getting all this love as a potential first quarterback taken now.
Really?
Well,
so
somebody put that out there.
So I would, that makes sense to me. I don't know about Alabama and I'll just say this: the only thing that Ryan Williams is going to be a sophomore, so that's scary. And
they got Ryan Grubb now as their OC.
Yeah, maybe Simpson, Tyler Simpson, the quarterback. Maybe he just fits better into what, I'm not saying he does, but maybe he fits better into what Kalen DeBoer and Grubb like to do. Mm-hmm. And maybe Jalen Milroe, they maybe just never felt comfortable with what they want to do with him.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And so you said Alabama and Ole Miss. Anybody else, Nick, on that list? That's it? All right. We're way late. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. We're talking to Reed. What up, Reed?
How's it going, guys?
Tell us what you have for us.
So, recent Aggie news and track and field. Cooper Kothra, Jaya Covington, and Alexander Solovev all break school records this weekend at the New Mexico Field Open and the John Thomas Terrier Classic.
I believe we mentioned Solovev last week on the show as well, so he's having a good start.
Yes, he is. So Covington, who is also SEC's runner of the week, broke her record in the 60-meter hurdles, improving from 8:01 to 8 minutes flat. Kothra won
8 seconds.
Excuse me?
8 seconds. I don't think it'll take 8 minutes.
Sorry, 8 seconds. Yes, that's my bad. Kothra won the mile with an incredible 3 minutes and 54 seconds, beating his own previous school record by about 4 seconds, which was 3 minutes and 58 seconds. And then Alexander Solovev recaptured the national lead in the men's pole vault with a clearance of 5.8 meters, breaking his previous record of 5.74.
What do you think it'd take you to run the mile right now, today? If we went outside right now and ran a mile.
Right, like right now.
I mean, you can stretch.
For a mile right now, I could probably do it in 12 minutes.
That's good.
I'm guessing 12 minutes.
Because you used to be a runner, right? Back in the day?
I used to, I wouldn't say. I used to jog.
Okay.
And I could jog at a decent pace, but I'm not going to. Now, if you want to talk like high school, the coaches wanted me to run to 800, and I was good at it, but it's.
It was the 1940s.
You got to want to love to do it, and I didn't love to. I hated every step.
The reason I ask is, how long do you think it would take you to jog over to 1775?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't jog there because I want to get there fast. I don't want to waste any time. My only question is, will I get a speeding ticket on my way to 1775? And if I did, okay, you know what? Sometimes you just got to take a sacrifice to get what you really want. And I really want that barbecue. I'm telling you, you got to go get that succulent brisket or that, the jalapeno cheese sausage.
Oh,
I can make a meal out of that. But, I'm a pork ribs guy, and they're amazing. And last time I went, the person that makes the queso mac and cheese was out with the flu.
That's right. You go back.
They should be back, so I could go have a chance. So So don't jog. Don't even run. Speed over to 1775.
Speed over. Say hi to Brad and Brandon for us. The food is delicious. The service is great. They're open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out. Online ordering turns off at 10 a.m. 8203 Raymond Stossel Parkway in College Station, 979-492-6241, or go to 1775txbbq.com.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Lucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Lucci sent you by.
All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, let's do a little performance of the week. I think this one's pretty easy. I'm going to let you take the first one.
Well, you know, to me, does last Saturday count as the week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're looking at the week that just happened.
I'm going Wade Taylor.
You got to go Wade Taylor.
You know, 25 points in a road win. And I don't care if it's over South Carolina, if you think that the record is really who South Carolina is, I don't care. Wade Taylor was spectacular. Look at that. 7-11. 7 of 11 from the 3-point line.
Yep.
Man, that makes me want to go out and get a big gulp.
As a reminder, the final segment of the show is brought to you by Double Days. That's at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with a choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. I'm going to do another one, OB.
All right.
The Dreamweavers. Why wouldn't we give the number 2 ranked Texas A&M women's tennis team a little bit of love? And by the way, they're the reigning national champions. They have won 11 straight wins and 60 consecutive wins at home after sweeping Sam Houston 7-0 in front of a packed crowd there at the Mitchell Tennis Center.
Yeah, those girls have been playing some high-level tennis for a long time. Every coach at A&M should be as successful in their sport as Mark Weaver is in his.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. He has set a very high bar, I should say. What is it, hard bar? Is that what I said?
Like Harbaugh?
Harbaugh.
Yeah, every coach at A&M should be as successful as Jim Harbaugh and Mark Weaver.
Is there anybody else we are missing performance-wise?
Well, Reed just told us about a bunch of track guys that did amazing things.
Yeah. The entire the
guy that ran a mile or 1,600 meters, I guess. Was it a mile or was it 1,600 meters?
It was a mile.
In under 4 minutes.
Who was that again?
Cooper Cothra.
Cooper.
That's there was a time, now it was years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, decades ago, that people thought that no one would ever eclipse the 4-minute mile.
All it takes is one.
And then Roger Bannister did it.
And he did it. And then it was broken not far after.
Yeah. And now Cooper Copra's doing it.
Cooper. All right, we'll hit a break here. When we come back, let's talk Myles Garrett.
Let's do.
With Charean the Dream Williams.
All right.
Let's do it. I bet she's got some insight.
I would just about guarantee it.
And also, I got to ask her, what are the Texans doing? I'm sure the guy that they hired as their OC, very highly regarded, but they had Gerard Johnson who interviewed, who was the quarterback whisperer, and he had a great relationship with C.J. Stroud. I just want to understand the why. Maybe I'm an Aggie. I want to see it from an A&M perspective.
And I want her to tell me if Jerry Jones feels like some of the pressure off is now that he's not the most disliked GM in the Dallas area.
That's a good point. All right, let's talk a little Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. They're stocking up on brand new vehicles for a wide selection of those cars. You can take a short drive to save money without any dealer add-ons, plus free oil changes on every new and pre-owned vehicle purchase. They're a business elite dealer, so they can help get vehicles for all of your small business or your commercial needs. Reach out to them, and they will help you find what you need for your business. If you're looking for a truck, it's the place to go. If you're looking for great customer service, that's the place to go. It's Caldwell Country, about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryant to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. Couple days in a row of little staying alive.
The Bee Gees?
The Bee Gees.
Well, whether you're a brother or whether you're a mother, you're just staying alive.
That rhymes. Whether you're a brother or you're a mother.
Is that? I think that's the way the song goes.
I think it goes like that, yeah.
I was big when I was in high school.
Great movie. Saturday Night Fever?
Fever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
And I actually liked Staying Alive. Was that the second one? The second one was
I didn't see it.
Oh, it was good.
I think I might have been a sophomore in high school when that came out.
Favorite John Travolta movie? Better be Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Face Off?
No.
Do you think they can name one?
Phenomenon.
Is that the one he's like a...
He has a brain thing and he's real smart.
Yeah, that was good.
That was pretty good.
He had a little stretch in the 90s where he was on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction's got to be. Also, Samuel Jackson's best movie. That or A Time to Kill. He was really good at A Time to Kill.
That, yeah.
The Avengers, whatever, right? Like, he's fine.
Yeah.
Pulp
Fiction, good movie.
We're having some issues with our phone lines, so we're working on getting Charean Williams here on TexAgs Live. Do you think, I don't know how much you've read about the Myles Garrett situation, okay?
He's asked for a trade.
But do you think the Browns will trade him?
I would have to know what his contract situation is.
I think he's got a couple years left. I think it's $16 million a year. I might be wrong. You may want to fact check me. Something to that effect.
If I was them, I think I would. Because they didn't make the playoffs this year, and he had a great year.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe you can get a really good deal. I would think you'd get a really good deal. And if he wants to trade now, you're probably going to lose him in 2 years anyway. So maybe you can get some really good compensation and start rebuilding your team.
If you already know you're in flux at quarterback, right? And your draft situation, I don't know what it is moving forward, but I know the last couple of years they were devastated with the Deshaun Watson trade that gave the Texans so many picks. I think if you are... Now, there's a part of me that's like, you've got one of the 2-3 best players in the entire league, you keep him, right?
Right.
But let's ask Charean Williams.
It's different than Luka because the Luka deal,
he was 25.
He was 25, and they just played for a championship last year. The Browns are going nowhere. But let's see what the
Charean
expert
Williams,
has to
Pro
say.
Football Talk, our good friend. Charean, help us make sense on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Help us make sense of the Myles Garrett situation, and somehow we'll weave in the Luka situation.
Oh, boy. Well, Myles wants to win a championship, which you can understand. I mean, as long as he's been there to not get close to even winning a championship, and I think he sees that they don't have a quarterback, and, you know, they're tied down with Deshaun Watson. They don't have to play him, but they do have to pay him, which really cuts into their cap. So he wants out. I get it. He wants to go to a contender. I get that. I'd put the odds right now at 50-50 that Myles gets traded. The Browns obviously don't want to trade him. They're going to get calls now because Myles does want to be traded. But if your best player wants to be traded and doesn't want to be with you, you know, I think you either have to come to some sort of agreement with him or you have to trade him. So I put it at 50-50 right now.
If you're the GM of the Browns, would you do it?
It depends on what I could get for him. I'm not doing a Nico Harrison trade of, Anthony Davis for sure. It's going to have to be some draft picks, and it's going to have to be some players, and it's going to have to be a lot that I'm going to have to get back from Myles Garrett. I mean, he's in the prime of his career. He's on the trajectory of a Hall of Fame player, and they are going to have to redo the contract. So it's going to cost a lot in draft picks. It's going to cost a lot in money. So, they have to do some things around the cap, too, to facilitate a trade. So it's going to be interesting to see, how that part works out. But they're going to get some offers, and there's going to be some very good offers in there. And maybe there's one that they can't turn down. So if I'm a team that feels like I'm in need of a pass rusher to turn my team around, then I can get that. I'm looking at a team like the Bills.
Yeah, that's the first team that came to my mind.
Yeah, a team that's right on the edge that could use a player that could put them over the top. And, you know, you feel like you've got the offensive part of that. You need the defensive part of that. And if you put Myles Garrett with Ed Oliver and Von Miller and that group, Von may not be back if Myles gets there, but I just think that would put your defense over the top.
So is there a pressure off Jerry Jones that he's no longer the most despised and looked at as the most incompetent general manager in the Dallas area?
Yeah, I think Nico Harrison is. I didn't even know who Nico Harrison. I don't follow the NBA that much. I didn't even know who he was until the weekend, and now I think everybody knows who he is. Absolutely, I think he's replaced Jerry as that low totem pole GM in the DFW, man, probably in all of sports right now. I just the way this trade went down and what they got in return, and it's crazy that this is the way, like the Myles Garrett way is the way you do it, okay? And I know Luka, it's different because Luka hadn't requested a trade. I get that, but they're gonna open it up to every team. Hey, if you're interested in Myles Garrett, you come to us with an offer. If there's an offer we can't refuse, we trade you, which is the way it should have been done if they were going to trade Luka. Open it up to everybody. Okay, hey, you know, we're open to trading Luka. Make us an offer. If it's one we can't refuse, we'll trade him. If it's not, we keep him. And they didn't do that. So I don't know how you make that trade. I don't know. There a handful of people in anywhere would have made that trade. A handful of fans would have made that trade. They were probably all Lakers fans who would have made that trade.
Yeah.
Talking to Charean Williams here on TexAgs Live. Charean, look, I guess I don't follow the NFL like I used to because I'm so into the Aggies. That being said, I follow the Texans, and in my mind, I thought it was Gerard Johnson's job to lose, right? Whenever they moved on from Bobby Slowick. Why did they go Kaylee, who I know is highly regarded, and I think they were interested. Somebody mentioned on the chat that they were interested in him a couple years back. Why do you think they went the Kaylee direction?
I think he's got some ties within that organization that probably help, but, you know, you've obviously got Gerard Johnson right there in your facility every single day. Maybe they felt he wasn't ready and he needed a few more years of grooming as a quarterbacks coach. I don't know what their reasoning is. I think he's going to be a very good general manager, a very good offensive coordinator one of these days. And I think it'll be sooner than later. And another year as a quarterbacks coach probably isn't going to hurt him, especially the way that CJ Stroud played this past season, which wasn't very good. And so it wasn't as good as his previous year. So that'll probably help him if he comes in and Stroud has a good year. I think that will help him set him up to have more interviews for offensive coordinator jobs next year. And within a year or two, I think he is going to be offensive coordinator in this league. And I think he's going to be very good. We never know. I mean, they've never done it before. So when you've never done anything before, you just don't know. It's the same thing we're talking about with Schottenheimer. Like, he's never done it. Maybe he's going to be a great head coach. Nobody knows how you're going to do when you get into that job, a job that you've never done before. So we all think he's going to be very good as an offensive coordinator, and I think he'll get a chance to show that he is. I think Aaron Glenn's going to be a very good head coach, and he's going to get that opportunity to show that he is, obviously, this year.
Charean, I know OB wants to ask you about the Super Bowl. I just want to ask you one other Texans question. Stephon Diggs, do you see him staying in Houston, or does he move on?
I don't know. He'll be an interesting one. You know, he's getting down late in his career. I think it all depends on money. I think they would probably like to keep him. He'd probably like to stay, but it always comes down to money. Who's going to offer you the most money? And that's where he's going to end up. So we'll see how that one plays out. They do have to upgrade that position, I think, this offseason. And they obviously tried to do that. And just the injuries just took that receiving core out. So they're going to have to upgrade that position somehow, some way. And I would hope that he would be part of that after, you know, he looked like he was going to help them throughout the season. Now, he was paid a lot of money and really didn't have the production to equal the money. So I don't know if they exactly got what they hoped out of him when he was playing. But again, if you get him at the right price, I think he fits in there.
All right, Charean, who's going to win the Super Bowl and why? You are the expert.
Oh, Yeah, well, yeah. Don't trust me on that. In the playoffs, I always say take the home team. Obviously, we don't have a home team here, so I can't just say take the home team. It's really hard to bet against the Chiefs, as we all know. I'm getting ready to go to the Chiefs right now, and then the Eagles after that. Do some interview sessions today. But it's hard to bet against the Chiefs just with what they've done, being in these critical situations. They have the best quarterback and the best coach in the NFL. But I'll say this, I think the Eagles have the better talent. If you just take talent they're both talented, but if you just take talent for talent and then the depth, I think the Eagles have the better team, but the Chiefs had the better quarterback and the better coach. I'm going to pick the Eagles. So if you're betting, I would definitely bet on the Chiefs just because I say the Eagles because I'm never right on these things. So, but I'm going to pick the Eagles, and maybe it's just my hope that they don't three-peat, that we get somebody different. This is my 30th Super Bowl to attend to cover. And it's probably the least excited I've been for a Super Bowl, just for the two teams. So I am hoping that it's just a good game, and I think it will be. And I think when we get to that, I'll be excited to see a good game. But just there's neither team I want to win and neither team I really want to lose. So yeah, I'm kind of conflicted on this one and not just real fired up about seeing these two teams. I was kind of hoping for the Commanders and the Bills, and when it got to that round, and of course I wanted the Lions when the playoffs first started.
Charean, great stuff as always. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with some final thoughts on the Go Hour, then to get you ready for hour number 2. It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. When you hear this song, what do you think of? What movie?
Isn't that like Back to the Future?
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of Huey Lewis and the News.
No.
I thought when they first came out, they had a song called Heart and Soul.
That was a great song.
That was a great song. And they went downhill.
I think
it is not and never has been and never will be hip to be square.
You're right about that. Now that I think about that, that's why I'm not hip. And there's
Or
other
square.
reasons. Yeah, this is true. All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Reed Neal's there. Reed, ¿qué tienes?
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Hey, good morning again.
So bus driver 88 on the Zone says Olin starts every morning with David with a pop quiz. I don't know if the grammar is right on that.
So do you trivia me in the first segment typically? I don't know. Probably.
Did I today? If I did, I didn't even know it. I'm going to give you
I just trivia'd you, and you got it right. Hip to be square.
Give you a test on your father.
Luke?
A pop quiz.
Give me a test.
Gosh, see, right off the top of my head, I don't know.
Pi, 3.14. What else do you have for us, Reed?
From an 817 number somewhere in Texas.
That would be Fort Worth area.
I think so, yeah, Dallas-Fort Worth. Compliments Luke Evangelicus for his Aggie basketball stats. I was listening in on SEC basketball on the Southeastern 16 podcast, and Luke was called out for his great stats.
Luke's doing an awesome job for us.
This is Jesse from Louisville.
Jesse!
Nice.
Yeah, Luke's done a great job. I feel like we're propping him up a little bit too much. He comes in with that smile.
I wonder if Luke is not the one that called him up to tell him about what a great job he's done.
That could be it. Or I wonder if Luke is Jesse, actually.
Yes, probably.
We have had employees text the show under fake names and fake numbers, or former employees too. So there is that. That is a thing.
Actually, as much as it pains for me to admit this, it's probably not. It's probably that he's done such a good job, people are responding to it.
Yes, he in fact, Jesse has texted the show before. Been a couple of months, but he's texted the show before. OB, it feels weird to be in February and not have a game to be prepared for tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
For basketball.
It's kind of a nice little break, though. Nice little break, but we'll be looking forward to that game on Saturday.
Yes, we will. It's
the Missouri Tigers.
And they look good.
They do.
They're getting hot. I still think that's a game A&M's got to have.
They need them all, but that's a game that I think A&M has a better team, but they're going to have to go prove it.
On the road.
No road game no game in the SEC is easy. They're just that much tougher on the road.
On Friday, when we do 3 things I want to see, one of those things is not a shooting drought. That would be great.
That would be nice.
I mean, all teams have a little bit of a shooting drought, just not an extended one.
No extended drought.
Obie, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, hour number 2 of the program. We're going to go with Justin Lanham, Joni Taylor, Josh Pate, the 3 J's. It's just like the Dallas Mavericks in the early to mid-'90s. The 3 J's coming up next on TexAgs Live. And we're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 2 of the program, the 3 J's today. Starting things off with Justin Lanham, then Joni Taylor, then Josh Pate. Let's talk to Justin Lanham there on the Buppy's Catering hotline. Justin, what's up, buddy?
What's up, David? Hey, I got to start off. Normally, I come on this show. I always tell you, man, I'm doing good, but I'm still hurting after the Luka trade. I just have to get that out there this morning.
It's interesting, our audience, I'd say there's a big percentage that does not like the NBA and wants to fight me when I bring it up. And then there's another part that is polarized. Like, it doesn't matter what sport you watch, right? If you're not into basketball, if you're a Dallas fan, a San Antonio fan, or a Houston fan, they're like, what were they thinking? And yet, Justin, there are some people, I think Stephen A. Smith, that think the Mavericks are in better position this year to win an NBA championship. So if they do that, then was it the right trade? I think it would be in that case, right?
Well, I think you have some people that are sitting here saying, like, is one championship, which nothing's guaranteed, but is one championship worth losing Luka for the next 10 years and just what you get to watch with just his, I mean, he's magic. It literally feels like you're watching magic when he's on the floor. So it's been tough. You know, it's like you trade away somebody that you thought that was going to be there for forever, you know, kind of like a Dirk situation. So it's been tough.
Well, I think the Raptors would never trade away that Kawhi Leonard championship, even though they only rented him for a season or whatever it was. Maybe it's 2 seasons. But I think you win a championship, you take it. Let's talk some Aggie hoops. So, state of the team, considering, like, I feel like the vibes with this basketball team are not where they were 2 weeks ago. I feel like there's been some lingering effects of the Texas game still. That being said, it's starting to pick back up, and I think a win on Saturday against Missouri would kind of put it, I think, right back to, we can breathe again, like, happy with where we are. I think we're almost there. I just don't think we're there just yet.
Yeah, and I think the reason probably you say that too is just because Missouri, like, if you win that game, like, that's a really, really good win, right? Not that some of these other games that you've won haven't been good wins, but at this point in the season, you beat South Carolina on the road, but to beat Missouri, I think, especially what Missouri is doing right now, Missouri is trending up right now. Like, Missouri is beating some really solid teams. They just beat Mississippi State by like 20-something. So I think that what they're doing is really impressive. So I think if you can go in and beat a Missouri team, I think you probably get rid of those lingering effects from the Texas game and some stuff like that. So I'm excited about that game. I think something that A&M has an advantage of too is the fact that Missouri has to play Tennessee tomorrow night on the road. And so that's a tough game leading into an A&M game. So I think that's an advantage for the Aggies.
Justin, there was a time with this basketball team that it would take Wade Taylor and someone else, usually Boots, to, like, be the guys. This year, it feels like you need at least 2 guys to be the guys, and it's not always Wade Taylor, right? This past game, it was Wade and an old reliable and Henry Coleman. Let's talk about Henry's resurgence, if you will, or stepping up, especially when he gets the minutes. I talked to Buzz about it. 20 minutes, he's been phenomenal, 12-7.
Yeah, he's been so fun to watch. He's been really consistent, and I think that goes a long way with this team. I think, obviously, you can't really talk about Henry's success without mentioning Pharrell Payne and what he's done for Henry in the sense of just kind of freeing him up a little bit, them able to feed off of each other. Like in that South Carolina game, Payne catches it at the high post and finds Henry Coleman off of kind of a high-low pass there and finish. And so I think that there's probably some reasons also right there with Payne why you're seeing some success from Henry. So Henry's game is fun to me. It's not your typical big like right now. A lot of bigs are just crazy athletic. And he's really not that. Like and I know this is probably going to get twisted, but he kind of reminds me of like back in the day. I'm not comparing him to him in the sense of a Hall of Famer, but like just how he moves and stuff is kind of like Karl Malone. He kind of reminds me of like a Karl Malone type in the sense of the way that he moves and the way that he finishes. Like he's not playing high above the rim. He's just really physical. And to me, that's just why he's been really consistent is he's able to just out physical people. He's able to get those offensive rebounds and put them up next to the basket.
I like that comparison because I see what you mean from obviously not the Hall of Fame superstar, but like he just plays with like, and even when he attacks the rim, there's some similar movements to the way Henry does it. What about Wade? Because we had been waiting, and really, if you think about it, all season long, we were waiting for one of these, 25-plus point games. We got it, and they absolutely needed it this past weekend. A South Carolina team that obviously didn't win a lot, doesn't win at all in the SEC, but can beat anybody at home. It feels like they're a step away. Let's talk about Wade and getting him back to shooting at the level that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I think something that was interesting to see, not that he doesn't do this other times, but something that was interesting to see on Saturday was I'm pretty sure almost every single one of those threes that he hit was off the dribble. And he's not necessarily like he doesn't hit just a ton of standstill threes as it is, but those are tougher than your standstill threes. Like shooting off the dribble is a lot harder. You're not as in, it's tougher to get in rhythm versus a standstill three. You're just catching and shooting, rising up. And so the degree of difficulty of those threes that he hit on Saturday were really, really tough. I mean, those were all tough shots, fading away, a defender on him. He's hitting a step back, one dribble pull up, things like that. And so I think that you've got to talk about that too when you're talking about just what Wade does for you is like the degree of difficulty, the times that he gets shots off are usually really tough. And I think part of that too is he's not the biggest guy on the floor. And so whenever you have a guy like that's already going to be tough whenever you have a defender on you and you're a little bit shorter. So his degree of difficulty of shots to me is really impressive.
Reed, do me a favor and look through the box scores this year and see the last time that both Wade and Zurich had a really good game together, because I'm assuming, Justin, we're going to get that, right? Like this past game, it was Wade where Zurich had the rough night, the 4 turnovers, the 1 of 9 shooting. There's going to be a game when both those guys are balling out.
Yeah, and when that's the case, that's really hard to stop because they're very different players. They're very different. Their games are very different. And so whenever you're able to attack different ways, I think that's really hard to guard. You got a guy that can get downhill. Both of them can get downhill. But I would say that you tip your hat to Phelps in that sense, that he gets downhill a little bit better than Wade and finishes at the rim a little bit better than Wade. Wade's got the floater. Phelps usually likes to kind of get all the way to the rim and finish. And then you'd probably tip your hat, obviously, to Wade from beyond the arc. But that doesn't mean that Phelps isn't a capable shooter. He's just not as good as Wade. So whenever you're able to attack from different sides of the floor and different guys, I think that is extremely, extremely hard to guard. You keep the defense off balance, essentially.
Talking to Justin Lanham here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. I know they concern you. Let's talk about the scoring droughts, because I think you could take segments of last year when you and I were talking about these scoring droughts, and now, honestly, the last couple of years, they concern me because a lot of times they happen with a lead, right? Like, and that lead that you feel like you're a step away from like a knockout blow. South Carolina, I think you were a step away from ending that game. Then you have the big scoring droughts, plural. There was more than one. So how concerned are you with those, and how do they continue to, I mean, they're winning the games though, right? So like, I'm concerned, but they're finding ways to get it done.
Yeah, I think what's concerning is like you can almost point to those, on losses, right? Like you can point to, oh my gosh, like there was a huge scoring drought. There was just a time and play where we just couldn't do anything on offense, right? And I think the reason you see that is because what got them the lead, a lot of the times they go away from that. And that's whenever you go into that drought. Like you get an 8-point lead. Sometimes I notice it. You get an 8-point lead. The next possession down, you get a stop. The next possession down, you come down and you jack a shot that normally you hadn't been, shooting to get that lead. And so I think sometimes it just comes to a level of focus in those moments. It's like, hey, we can get the lead, but can we really pull away? And so can you put the foot on the throat kind of mentality? And a lot of the times it just feels like that hasn't been the case. And so it's definitely concerning. But I will say in those moments, a lot of times you think, well, we got to fix the offense. But in those moments, it's like, well, you really got to bear down on defense and try to get your defense to create easy opportunities for you on offense. And so if you can do that, I think you can probably negate some of those droughts.
Reed Neal's there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Were you able to find the last time they had a nice game together?
So they did actually have a pretty good game against Texas, but the last time we won and they had a good game together was against ACU. We won 92-54. Phelps had 12 points. Wade Taylor had 15. Phelps had 10 rebounds, and Wade Taylor had 10 assists.
Look up the box score, if you don't mind, of the Purdue game. Okay. I know that Wade left that game early, and that's where the initial injury situation started. But I feel like they both were having a nice game in that game as well until Wade had to leave the game. Justin, do you have recollection of that game?
Man, I've watched so many that I don't. But I feel like you said this earlier, like you almost always have to have two guys really contributing. And to be honest, David, I agree with you, but I also sometimes feel like you almost need that third guy that's kind of contributing, like I just feel like that's kind of been the trend. Like if you can have a Phelps and a Wade, pretty solid game, even like a 15-12 or 15-10, like you just mentioned. And then you've got, you got Payne doing something inside, or sometimes it's Manny that steps up, I mean, if you can really have that third guy, I really feel like that's whenever you have success.
Reed, you got the box score?
Yeah. So let's see. So Zerk Phelps had 16 points, and Wade Taylor also had 15. So you're right on that.
And Wade left the last 5 minutes of that game. So and by the way, that was at a neutral site game. Justin, where are the NCAA tournaments going to be played?
Neutral site.
There you go. So let's talk about that, because I don't know which bracketology had A&M as a 2 seed. I know I saw a post on TexAgs with it. I don't know if they're going to get that high, although if you go through this schedule and you have 12, 13 wins, absolutely it's possible. Let's talk about where they are right now. If they do finish with 11, 12 wins, if they do 3-6, right, and only finish with 9 and they go 9-9, where do you see potential seeding for this team based on those two highs and lows?
Yeah, for me right now, I would say I think they're anywhere from the 2 to the 4 spot. Like, I don't think they're going to fall any further than that, but I don't think that they're going to really get any higher than the 2. And the only reason I say that is just because you mentioned just the gauntlet that's still out there to be played. I mean, you can't take anybody light. I don't care if it's Georgia, South Carolina. Like, you can't take anybody lightly. And so I think that for me, the ceiling is the 2 spot, and the floor is the 4 spot for me.
It's so easy to use the next man up mentality, right? And that is used in sports is overused. But the reality is this team, if Wade goes out, Zurich seems to have big games, right? If Solo's out, then we get an epic kind of Andy performance, or Henry has a couple. Just talk a little bit about that, because guys have stepped up when your regulars, I don't even want to say starters, but regulars have missed some time.
Yeah, I think that just speaks on just kind of the depth of this team. Everybody kind of knows their role, right? I think that that's important. And so whenever guys come in, Solomon Washington has been out, and like you said, you've had guys step up. I think it's really interesting, and I've talked about this a time or two before on the show, but how Manny, he doesn't get very consistent minutes. And what I mean by that is it's not like 4 minutes into the game, oh, Manny's coming in. Some coaches kind of have that where it's like, oh, he's the first guy off the bench every time. That's not always the case. And so what's impressive, and kind of what I'm getting at, is that when you don't know when you're coming in, that's hard to be ready to play. And so a lot of these guys they come in, they don't know when their name's going to be called off the bench. And so when they come in, they're ready to contribute. And the cool thing is too, every single one of them, you can go down the roster and every single one of them bring just a little something different to the team, right? Hayden Hefner's coming off the bench. He's giving you a little bit something than Jace Carter. CJ Wilcher is definitely giving you something different than another guy on the bench. So I think it's really cool to just see in the moments of the game when you insert these guys and how they're able to contribute in different ways.
What is up with Jace? Because I know he's better than he's showing, right? And I believe Buzz yesterday on the show called it the yips, but there's something going on up here, right? It's just something is not clicking. He's a much better free throw shooter than he's showing. He's a much better shooter than he's showing. He is finding ways to help contribute, but they're going to really need more of the Jace we saw in the NCAA tournament last year than what we've seen this year.
Yeah, and you can see it. You can see guys whenever they're maybe struggling with what Buzz said, the yips. They don't stay on the free throw line. You can tell they're a little antsy when they get to the free throw line. You watch him whenever he goes to the free throw line. He just doesn't look comfortable. And to me, again, it just goes back to a confidence thing. And so if he can find a way to get that back, it's not easy, right? You're on an island when you're shooting a free throw out there, so it seems. But if you can get that confidence back, it's going to impact all of his game, because the yips at the free throw line is going to impact how you shoot the ball from the 3-point line. It's going to impact your confidence to guard somebody on the defensive end, that you're making the right play, that you're trying to cut a guy off whenever he's driving. So I hope that he gets that confidence back, because I do feel like it is completely impacting his overall game.
Justin, you've coached all different types of players before. So I always say, like, players like, I don't know, Draymond and Pat Beverly, those style of players, you want them to play with that edge, but you also want them to rein it in. A different example of that, because it's not that Manny plays with an edge. He does play with an edge, but not in that kind of way. But you want him to be aggressive the way he is. But at the same time, sometimes he looks like he's all over the place. So how do you rein in a guy like that whose best asset can sometimes also be something that hurts his game?
Yeah, I think it starts with the relationship between the coach and the player, like just making sure that they understand that you have their best interests at heart. And so being able to have those tough conversations with them, like, hey, Manny, hey, you're really good whenever we have 2 or 3 ball reversals and now you've got a long closeout and you're attacking, versus, hey, I don't know if you're as good when we don't have any ball reversals and you're just dribbling the ball, and then you take a shot. I think having those honest conversations with him and letting him know, like, hey, pick and choose whenever you attack. I don't think sometimes he gets in that mode where you can see he's running to the ball. It's like the elementary basketball where, like, the kids are magnets. They sprint over to the ball and ask them to be handed the ball off. Sometimes I feel like he just wants the ball and he's ready to just do whatever. But I think he's got to understand that within the offense, he can still get the shots that he wants. Like, it doesn't have to just be him ISOing and he's going to get whatever shot. Like, he can get shots within the offense. And so, again, I just think it starts with just having that relationship. And I think Buzz and him do have that relationship.
All right, let's wrap up with this. If Nick can put up the schedule, this next stretch, how crucial it is. And I'm talking the next 4 or 5 games, because then the gauntlet restarts again with Mississippi State, Tennessee, Vandy, Florida, Auburn. And so this next stretch that includes Missouri on the road, Georgia, Arkansas, this is a big crucial stage in the phase of the season, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like I mentioned, like, the Missouri game is going to be a tough one already. Dennis Gates, he's got those guys playing right now. I wanted to point out this too. I don't think I said it. Like, it's impressive, like, what Missouri is doing this year, because last year they went 0 in conference, and now they're sitting in the top 15. And so that's really impressive. Then you got a Georgia squad, and then Arkansas. Obviously, Arkansas just came off a big win against Kentucky at Kentucky. So again, it's just any night. I know we've said it a million times on this show, but any night you can basically get got by somebody, and that's why you got to bring your best every night. So it's going to be interesting to see the Aggies finish out the SEC play, and you can't slip up any night.
Justin, great work, buddy. Thanks so much.
Appreciate you, David.
Later, man. Justin Lanham there on the TexAgs Live on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with Joni Taylor. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. They make documentary films about families. If your family's got a cool story, I shouldn't even say if. Your family does have a cool story. I don't know what your family story is, but I know that there's the origin story, right? Like, there's something about what makes your family unique, something that makes your dad unique, your grandfather unique, your grandmother, something about your family business, your family ranch. There's something about your story that needs to be told in a 2-hour documentary form. I think all families should be having a heritage film to honor the last name, honor the family, the legacy, everything in between. And that's what Chance McClain does. He does these 2-hour documentaries, and I'm telling you, you're going to love it. We did it with my dad. I know a lot of Aggies are doing it, and it's just the way to kind of honor your family name and then pass it on to the next generation. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com. 713-893-8341. 713-893-8341. It's Heritage Films. It is TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Hope to catch up with Joni Taylor here. If not, we'll get her at some point here this week. Let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, because you're exactly right, Reed. Reed was pointing out during the break that, yes, it's important to get 2 guys going, but 3 is really the charm. And all teams, but especially when A&M has a 3rd guy who is a legitimate offensive threat, and by legitimate, double figures type of thing. Mm-hmm. I think A&M is very hard to beat. You went back to the Purdue game and kind of started us off. We started off with Wade and Zurich. Zurich is the one who had the most points in that game, right?
Yes, he had 16 points.
And Wade had 15.
Yeah, but Pharrell Payne was actually tied with Phelps with 16 points. 6 for 6 in the paint, 4 for 7 for free throws, 4 offensive rebounds, 5 defensive rebounds, 9 rebounds total.
I'm going to give you another project, because today's all about research. Okay. All right, I want you to look at A&M's losses.
Okay.
And I want you to see what Pharrell Payne did in those losses. All right. I think that's an interesting thing to point out, because, again, I like old school basketball. That's just always been what I'm into. And I like when you have I don't even know if dominant post is the way to phrase it. It's more of a dominant figure in that they command double teams, or you have to think about them at all times. And that's what Pharrell does. He opens up the game for everybody else, but he's also so gifted with his back to the basket, right? He's also so gifted, just commanding a double team because he takes up so much space. I'd like for him to get the ball more in the paint. I would love to see him get the ball more in the paint. But he also is fantastic at, when he receives it at the three-point line, creating opportunities, attacking the rim, backing people down, and then having the double team come and finding that open guy. He is so good at doing that. And when he gets you double figures and almost double figures in rebounding, the Ags are very hard to beat. You look at their schedule this year. When he has a big game, the Aggies win. And obviously last year, there were several huge games by Wade Taylor. Huge games, right? But those huge games, sometimes when he had 30 or more, I don't believe they won those games. This year, this team is more about having multiple guys scoring. That's why you can have a game with 6 guys in double figures. That's why you can have different types of scores. Reed, have you found any of those box scores?
So against Alabama, Pharrell Payne had 23 points.
He was big.
That was a big game for him.
But we had some scoring droughts, which is typical with this game, with this team.
And then against Texas, he only had 7 points, 1 assist, and 4 rebounds.
I don't know if I'd have it on your stats there, but how many of those came in the first half? Does it have a first half, second half?
It does not, but
I believe he was more effective in the first half. I could be wrong on that.
I think you're right on that.
I'm pretty sure he was more effective. I think they went away from him, if I remember that game.
Because in that game, the first half, we were up by, 20 at one point, and then we just kind of fell apart in the second half.
We did, and there was a lot of missed shots, and Texas got hot, and A&M was not hot, which, unfortunately, we've seen many times this season where they've had one good half followed by a bad half, or vice versa, right? You know, the Ole Miss game is the one that comes to mind of, okay, they made up for it. So, by the way, we will have Joni Taylor on the program here in a moment, because there's a lot. I mean, the last time I talked to Joni, it had been a minute, but we had, a lot has happened. So let's go straight to the Buppy's Catering hotline. We are joined by Joni Taylor here on TexAgs Live. Joni, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry about the phone situation. So happy to have you on the program today.
Oh, no, absolutely. Not a problem. I was just finishing a workout, and so I was just trying to call in, and then I finally checked my text messages, so my apologies.
All good. All good. So as I was mentioning, a lot has happened since the last time we spoke, Joni.
Yes.
Look, I know how proud you are of your team because they are grinding through some difficult things, but just give me a state of the team address, if you will. How is the team handling injuries, especially after you were playing so well leading into that injury?
Right. So last time we talked, we had just beat Kentucky, and we were going to play LSU. And we are in Baton Rouge playing LSU tooth and nail. And it's towards probably the last 2 minutes of the second quarter, Aisha Coulibaly goes down and has a knee injury. She doesn't finish the game. We go on to battle LSU really, really well. We hold them to 64 points on their home floor on their reunion night. They averaged 97 a game, and the next game put up 107 and fell just short. We found out 2 days later that AC has the season-ending knee injury. And so we are just devastated for her. She's a fifth-year senior. Her time is done at Texas A&M as far as we know. She actually will have surgery tomorrow, reconstructive surgery. Dr. Lowe is going to do that in Houston, and then she'll go about the process of making a full recovery. And so we just are, number one, making sure that she is in a good space physically and mentally, because this is not how she obviously wanted her career to end. And obviously, the future is just unknown as it relates to her getting drafted, playing professionally, and all those things. And so we've really tried to focus on making sure that she's in a good place, and I think she is. As far as our team, we've had 2 games since then, and we are trying to find our identity without her. She's our leading scorer, our second leading rebounder, our best defender. And so we lose to Arkansas at Arkansas, and then we had Texas at home on Sunday and held them to 70 points. They average 87 a game. We've got to figure out how to score. We've missed some opportunities. We had 18 offensive rebounds. We didn't convert those into second chance points. We missed some free throws. We can't pass up opportunities like that. And then we've got to not feel pressure to one person carry her load, because one person can't replace what she does. But by committee, we each have to chip in and take on some responsibility in all those areas where she just really led us. And that includes our toughness and our grit and just our backbone.
Yeah, BC sent me some notes, and I'm looking through it, and we talk about men's basketball's hard schedule. We talk about the football team's hard schedule, because anytime you're in the SEC, you have a hard schedule. But the strength of schedule for your team, number 3 in the country, and you have to navigate that without a player that was so dependable offensively, rebounding-wise, and defensively.
Yes. And like you said, we had some injuries early on. None of them were season ending. So we finally get in a groove, get people back practicing, get some continuity. We won 3 in a row, and here we go. And then here we go. And so, again, our spirits are high. We have a good resolve to us. We were off yesterday. I'll see them today, and we'll start attacking Auburn. And more importantly, just really focusing on us, because the other thing that this does, David, is that everybody's now in a different seat at the table than they were before. And we're still trying to figure that out.
Talking to Joni Taylor here on TexAgs Live. So let's talk about the next couple of games. I think if I looked at the schedule correctly, 3 days apart, short turnaround. So just, short-term memory, moving on and trying to play your best basketball.
That's what you got to do. You got to have a short-term memory. We still have a lot of SEC left to play for this month. We go to Auburn, who is another team that's really stingy defensively. They've got a player in Gaston who just dropped 30 on South Carolina on Sunday. And anytime anybody drops 30 on South Carolina, that gets your attention, because they're a pretty good defensive team as well. And she has the best usage rate of anyone in our conference. So that means whoever, the ball is in her hands, her team relies on her more than any other person in our conference. And so we've got to do a really good job of defending her and making things tough for her. And then we come back home and play Missouri on Sunday. That is our breast cancer awareness game. We partner with the Pink Alliance and the KL Fund. And so we'll have on our pink uniforms for that game. We will recognize survivors and honor those that we lost at halftime. And we also have a promotion out there where in the last 24 hours leading up to the game, for every T-shirt that is bought, I will match that amount of money and donate it to Pink Alliance and the KL Fund. So go get your pink shirts. They're $10. We need to beat the hell out of breast cancer, and just really excited to be able to contribute, and that the monies raised for our T-shirt sales will go directly to impact those who are battling this terrible disease.
Joni, I want to close out with some defensive talk, because I think, yes, obviously defense, you need talent there, but it's also a mindset. That, to me, it's like you cannot allow this person to score. You cannot give them an inch. Against Texas, I know the result wasn't what you wanted, held them to 70 points. I think they were averaging almost 90. So just talk about the mindset defensively that your team holds on to no matter who you're playing.
Well, that's how we try to build who we are, is having a defensive mindset. Our motto is defense travels, because there's going to be some nights where we do everything right and the ball just doesn't bounce our way. But if we don't play defense in this league, you don't stand a chance. And so defense will give you a chance. It'll keep you in it, whether you're having a good night or not offensively. I haven't looked at the numbers since our game on Sunday, but we were second in the conference in three-point field goal percentage defense, third in the conference in field goal defense, leading up to last week's games. And so that's something that we really pride ourselves on. And our players see those numbers. They see the results from those numbers. And so it's something that we just really, really hit home on as much as possible. And it's another way for us to talk about gold medal plays and gold medal habits, because so much is to be said about shooting the three or making a nice play offensively. And we really try to celebrate those things on the defensive end as well.
Joni, thanks so much. Good luck. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
See ya. Joni Taylor there on the Bucky's Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with Josh Pate and with Billy Lucci. I see Billy there in the lobby right now for Tella Italian Cafe. They are excited and they are all about serving you delicious homemade Italian dishes made with love. They got fresh pasta, golden fried breadsticks, and of course that lasagna and famous cheesecake. They're proud partners of A&M Athletics, and they share for a passion of food with Aggie fans everywhere. If you can't come out to Frutella, no problem. They ship their products nationwide, so you can enjoy Frutella from the comfort of your home. Plus, you can find them every Saturday at the Memorial Village's Farmers Market. Frutella is owned by the same family that opened Pino's in Houston, and they're proud to carry on that same tradition with the best Italian food in town. Come hungry, leave happy. It's Frutella, all about good food and great company. And we're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. I've become popular again. Well, I don't know if I have, but the addition to Josh Pate on Tuesdays is being, there's a post about it. People are very excited, and we got to thank Academy Sports and Outdoors for bringing this interview. They carry a wide selection of the best brands, including Easton, Rawlings, and Wilson, and an Academy. You can shop the latest bats, gloves, cleats, clothing, protective gear, and training equipment, and much, much more. With that, we go to the Buppy's Catering Hotline. There is the great Josh Pate. Josh, good morning, buddy.
I want to specify, David, although I have not been sent copy to read, especially in the state of Texas, Academy rules supreme.
Yes.
My words, not theirs, but especially in the state of Texas. I just want to put that out there.
100%.
No question about it, Josh. And I'll tell you one thing that Academy does not carry, because they pretty much carry everything you could ask for. One thing they do not carry is that shirt that Nuño's wearing.
What are we talking about?
The deep V-neck, banana yellow, that we were going to wait and see till you commented on it, but...
Josh knows fashion. Why would he comment on it?
Well, as a shirt connoisseur that Josh is, we were going to wait, but then I was like, we were talking about it, I said, Josh is too nice to comment on something like that. So there it is. Get used to it, because he says he's going to wear it every time.
I don't know about every, because it takes 12 minutes to do a costume change. So, Josh, the true story behind this is I got this for Christmas a couple years ago. I wore it once or twice on the show, and the reaction that I got was so negative from my children, my wife, even though she bought it, by the way. I think she bought it because it was on my list. From Billy, from the subscribers. I said I would never wear it again until we booked you for this off-season weekly chat. And I think it somehow came up naturally, like, you should wear that yellow shirt. You didn't think I still had it.
Have you ever seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Josh?
I've been on all three, yes, of course, illegally and illegally.
The movie. John Candy, Steve Martin. The shirt offends me. It makes me very angry.
Hey, let me ask you this. First off, Nuño, how far down can you unbutton that thing? If you really wanted to, like, could we go navel? Could you have navel cleavage? Is that how far down it goes? Because I can't see it. I'm not close enough.
There are no buttons, but I can bring it down.
Deepest of deep V-necks. It would make Cliff Kingsbury blush.
Is this the time of year where you're just not nervous about tan line because it's been winter, so everything's the same? You don't have any lines, and you're just letting it hang out?
Yeah, I just let it all hang.
Okay, fair enough. Look, whomst am I to question someone's fashion? Like you said, I've been wearing this T-shirt for 19 years. So who am I to question it?
I will say, for a Cuban, I would expect a little more chest hair and machismo.
I use Veet or Nair to make sure that it's not a problem.
Yeah. I think Gillette was where we were going with that one. By the way, look, I don't want to speak for the Cuban people, but how are you looked on by your fellow man when you reveal something like that?
When I'm in Miami, I'm very cowboy. When I'm here, I'm very Latino. So it kind of depends on the community that I'm in. I'm a hybrid.
So the Cuban chameleon is basically a new brand.
I like this. Yeah.
Can we talk some football?
Sure, or whatever. And we actually have a lot of football to discuss, I think, with Mr. P.
Well, Josh, I want to ask you a question that I started the show off with OB. Just get your thoughts. We kind of went through a list of teams that I think could take a step back next year in college football. Some teams that had really nice seasons. Spitballing here, is there a team or two in your mind you're like, I still got some questions about them if they can do what they just did this prior season?
I'll always go with a team like South Carolina, who they lost a couple of close games. Like those folks were over there thinking, man, we lost by, the skin of our teeth at Alabama. We could have been in the playoff. The LSU game got robbed from us, and they're not totally wrong in thinking that. Okay, well, then I think about the other side of the coin, because there's this theory that a lot of fans, including me, start to slip into, and you convince yourself that wherever you finished last year, that's your starting point for the upcoming year. Even though the record says 0-0, Penn State's going to be a victim of this year. Man, we were in the semifinals last year, so anything less than a national championship trip, that's a bust. That's a bad season. Well, that almost convinces yourself that you're starting there. So I don't think that way. So if you're talking SEC, South Carolina, trust but verify. Tennessee, trust but verify, especially with the offensive line issues potentially there. Now, on the flip side of that coin, they can downplay it all they want to. It would disappoint me if LSU wasn't a playoff team this year. With the lack of continuity returning at the quarterback position in this league and in this sport, if you got Nuss and you just did what they did out of desperation in the portal, you ought to be one of the 12 teams that makes it in. Auburn's got to flip the hourglass over this year. At the very least, they got to be a lot better. So I don't know. They're two ends of that coin, and those are both that I look and I say, is it going to be like it was last year? We'll see.
When I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking about I think we know, like you said, what Nuss is going to be. Can LSU get out of this 3-loss regular season or more in a couple instances, but get out? Everyone talks about A&M and that 8-4 cycle, and I think it's warranted. LSU, for all their bravado and outside of that magical 2019, they've been in a pretty extensive 3-loss plus cycle. I think the pressure, do you think the pressure, not hot seat pressure, but do you think Brian Kelly's feeling some sort of pressure in Baton Rouge, like to perform this season?
Yeah. I also don't think he's totally comfortable, not with LSU. I just think he's a guy that's not totally comfortable with the landscape right now. We were down there. I mean, I can share this. So we were down there for the Bama game this past year.
Yeah.
And I was in the building on Friday, and I was just in the vicinity of his office. I wasn't even supposed to be talking to him. Wasn't meeting with him or anything. I was just in the building saying hey to folks. He walks out. We talked for a little while, and like the first sentiment was, man, I cannot wait until we get to a point where this thing makes sense again, where the structure of the sport makes sense again. It's about evaluating, getting them, and developing them, and not looking over your shoulder. And Brian Kelly is just saying the same thing everyone else is. The difference is most places don't have the expectation level that LSU has, because most of their fans haven't seen every one of their head coaches win a national championship since basically, the turn of the millennium. They've seen every one of them win at least a championship. So, yeah, I think he feels pressure, not in a sense that he's scared. I think the thing that's worse than fear is this uncertainty. Like, you do not, as you guys know, as everyone watching knows, you don't handle portal guys like you do high school. You don't have multi-year relationships with those guys. In some cases, you haven't even met them before they commit, sign on the dotted line, whatever. So, think about what a crapshoot that is when your livelihood, career, reputation, whatever's on the line, and you just got to spin the roulette wheel. It used to be, it's always a gamble. There's no sure thing, but man, you can stack the odds in your favor back in the day in traditional recruiting. Now and into the immediate future, it's I hope. I mean, how can you even know what your team is coming out of spring? How can you even know what your team is beginning in fall camp? I will never, ever, ever forget this. Last year, remember your top 10, right? And Florida State was in most people's top 10, if not top 15. And they were in the top 15 if you were low on them. Everyone else had them in the top 10. Yeah. And I'm listening to NFL scouts go in their camp, and they're saying, this is one of the more talented teams that we've seen. Nick Saban goes out there and watches them practice, goes on TV. Yeah, I think that team's right there. I think they may contend for a championship. So it wasn't that they were all lying to us, guys. It was that there's a big difference between collections of ingredients and a meal. There's a big difference between individual pieces and a team. Like when you try and pull apart and it doesn't, that's what a team is. When a train hits go and all the cars clasp, that's because there's connectivity. You can't know if you have it. You cannot know if you have it. So there's pressure, and to some extent, there's not much you can do about it until the season starts.
No, I think it's pretty wild when you're talking about Florida State, right? Because essentially a year ago, Mike Elko was kicking the tires on an old colleague and, Fuller, their defensive coordinator, knowing there's no way I can hire this guy because all that's going to happen is he's going to get a massive raise because he's considered one of the very best in college football. The season they were coming off of, the way that defense played, a year later, less than a calendar year later, he's fired at Florida State. And I think that's a perfect example of you just don't know what to expect. You don't know. Here's the other thing, Josh, right? You don't know what to expect from your opponents because you don't know when they've hit the portal and hit the magic formula or not. So those September games are really dangerous. Those late you don't know, is it going to click early and you run into a buzzsaw, or is it going to click late where like Auburn last year that A&M ran into? So, but I want to go back. You talked about South Carolina and Tennessee. Man, I'm picking South Carolina to keep it going in that deal and Beamer over Heupel in Tennessee, which I wouldn't have thought I would say, but I'm doing it because of Lenora Sellers v. Nico. I'm not there on Nico yet, but I think if there's a couple of quarterbacks in this league that could really alter the trajectory of their teams this year, I think it's Nico, and I think it's a guy right here in College Station, and Marcel Reed. Give me your thoughts on Reed and the Aggies as we enter the spring off season.
Yeah, there are two classifications of quarterback. One of them is a guy who can carry a team, Cam Newton, freak alien types. And, well, there are three classifications. One of them is he's not good enough, so we don't really spend much time on those guys. Then the other extreme is he can elevate every person around him and a total freak show, exception to the rule. And then there's guys that are good enough. Will Howard was a perfect example of this at Ohio State this year. I don't think Will Howard's winning a national title at Kansas State, but he was good enough if he's plugged into the right situation to do his job. If I'm a Texas A&M fan, that's what I'm asking Marcel Reed to do. And if he delivers above and beyond that, if the development here is such that he just explodes and becomes a megastar, that's great. But man, there's a reason you make documentaries about guys like that, because they're pretty few and far between.
Yeah.
And also, look, and he can come on the show and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Mike Elko's necessarily out to build a team that's purely quarterback-centric. Because if you believe in your overall ability to stack talent and evaluate and develop a program, it's college football. It's not the NFL. I don't think you want your hopes and dreams to hinge on, the healthy ankle or the healthy arm of one guy, when instead you can go about it like Ohio State just did. Like, there was no point in time this year, Saban's best teams at Bama, there were very rarely points in time where you said, boy, if that quarterback went down, this entire thing would blow up. So I want Marcel Reed to make incremental to marginal improvement this year. And then there's a part B to that. I want the collective level of the team to be such that whether I watch him in spring or especially if I watch him week 1 or week 2, I go, I can't put my finger on it. There's no one individual star that's rising above and beyond, but it just feels a little different. That's the surest sign that your program's headed in the right direction.
My last question about A&M.
Okay. Well, we have to hit a break.
Okay, hit a break.
What I was going to say, Josh, is I'd like to talk to you after the show and find a better time because we have hard outs at the end of the hour. And with Billy and us three talking, it's going to go long. So let's talk about it after the show, maybe revisit a 9 o'clock or a 10 o'clock. But we got to hit a break here. Josh, talk to you next week.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, we could have talked
We're going to have 12
for an
seconds.
hour.
No, we have 12 seconds on the other side. We'll be back.
All right,
It's TexAgs
Josh,
Live.
sorry. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya. As I mentioned, this would be a super short segment. We got 20 seconds. Next hour, we'll talk some baseball. We'll talk some college basketball. Seth Greenberg is going to join us. John Scheschuk is going to join us. That and more. It is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Little fat pat for you because that's what John Scheschuk loves to listen to, but he's not on the show just yet. He will be momentarily. It is TexAgs Live. We are presented. There's the yellow shirt, guys. I had to change back. Presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. All right, let's do this. Let's give away a free car wash. Your car wash tradition with the friendliest staff and a personal touch is Aggieland's First Green Car Wash, where they recycle 100% of their water. The original location on William D. Fitch behind the Shipleys in South College Station, and the newest location, 2528 Texas Avenue South in College Station, across from the Planet Fitness. Both car washes, have all the services you want from the varying wash options, but the Texas Avenue location is the one that offers the full service wash. They're the newest full service wash in town. They take care of all the cleaning, all the drying, all the vacuuming, Armor All interior, completely covered patio so that your car stays cool while they make it sparkle out their 3 levels of full service washes. The giveaway right now, if you want to try that basic full service wash, which is a $40 value, we're going to give one away to the first caller, 979-693-1150. First caller will get themselves a free car wash from Aggieland Express Car Wash at the Texas Avenue location. Let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. That's where Reed Neal is as we wait to get John Scheschuk on the show. And Reed, I know that you had something to mention when it comes to Pharrell Payne earlier that I was going to break last time.
Yes, so we've been talking about Pharrell Payne a lot. I don't have the exact stats because it would take a while to calculate. But one thing I did notice is a lot of our games that we lose, like against number 8 Kentucky, Pharrell Payne puts up a lot of points. He put up 15 points against Kentucky, but his assist stats, he only had 1 assist, only 3 rebounds that game, are usually lower. But when we win, he tends to have higher assist stats. So I guess my question is, would you rather see him, obviously we want to see him play high in both.
Sure.
But would you rather see him score high or play more of an assist role and trying to get the ball outside the 3-point line to players like Taylor or Manny?
I like him offensively.
Yeah,
I really do. I like what he brings to the table offensively. Not that I want him to be the focal point of the offense, but I like that he's a change of pace at times that I think he can create with his back to the basket. I think he can face up and take some of the smaller 5s and 4s, and some of them are bigger, to the hole. I just like him as an offensive option. I don't want him as 1A. I think on certain days he can be, and on certain days he can be your second option offensively. And when he is that second option offensively, I'm not saying that I need 20-plus points from him. It's the fact that when he gets the ball, how the defenses have to react to him getting the ball in the paint. That, to me, is all a part of what he brings to the table. What else?
So, like you said, I think Purdue is the best kind of display of his full power. He had 16 points in that game, 9 rebounds, 5 of those were defensive, 4 of those were offensive. Who do you think is his best kind of partner in crime when it comes to setting up our offense?
Who do I think? What did it say that again?
Who do you think is his best, not partner, but player to assist, to kind of work with, to score the most points?
Keep that thought. Nick, I got a text that says he still doesn't have the link, so if you want to call him up, maybe you guys can talk it through. Anyway, who do I think is the second option to Pharrell Payne?
Just who do you think is to Pharrell Payne? Who do you think is his best supporter when it comes to passing the ball and assists?
See, I think to me, what Pharrell Payne does is make life easier on others.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that it depends on who the person is. Earlier in the show, Justin Lanham was on here, and I thought that he had a really good thought. He made life easier for Henry, right? Because Henry, for a while in years past, had to take a lot of the bigger dudes and the physicality. And while Henry's a very physical player, when you line him up against a 3 or a 4, those guys are going to be physically, they're not going to be able to match up with him. So I think Pharrell Payne, what he does is not only does he command sometimes a double team and make you worry about him offensively, which opens up Wade and Zurich Phelps, I think he takes a lot of the load off of Henry Coleman. So while we're waiting for John Scheschuk to get ready, I know you had some around the SEC thoughts you wanted to get into.
Yes, so around the SEC, obviously lots of upsets in the SEC this weekend. My personal favorite, I'm a bit of an OU sympathizer when we're not playing them ourselves, but they took down Vanderbilt, who's ranked number 24, by 30 on Saturday, winning 97-67. OU was 63.2 from the paint and 55% from the 3. Once again, I just think this is kind of funny. Goodine only had 8 points. He does not hit double digits unless he's playing A&M.
Yeah, but I think he is a very good shooter.
No, yes, for sure.
But he is a byproduct of the way A&M plays defense.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. He becomes a second or third option, and if you can pass, and he's that good of a shooter when you got guys around him that are good offensively, that when he's your third or fourth option, it'd be like Jace Carter. If Jace started hitting his threes again, or started hitting threes, I could see him having those types of games. Unfortunately, he's been in this slump. Continue on.
So on kind kind of along the same lines as that with OU. OU's Hall of Fame head softball coach, Patty Gasso, was chosen this weekend to be Team USA's head softball coach and is set to coach at the 2028 LA Games. So she has a pretty crazy resume. Patty's entering her 31st season as OU's head softball coach. She has won 15 Big 12 season titles. She has also brought OU softball to the College World Series 17 times and won 8 of them, which effectively means if you go to the College World Series for softball with Patty Gasso, you basically have a 50% chance of winning.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible. To add on top of that, she has advanced to the postseason every time she has been with OU, and she is the Big 12's winningest head coach of all time in men's or women's sports.
Congratulations to Patty Gasso.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, she's pretty good. You have one more for us?
Alabama football is set to hire Ryan Grubb as offensive coordinator. Ryan he's returning to college football. He was with the Seahawks last year. He went 10-7 with the Seahawks. But before that, what's a little more impressive is Washington. He was with Washington, and he went 14-1 with them in 2023. How do you think that will impact Bama's offense, especially after what a lot of fans would consider a relatively disappointing season last year or this year?
I'm interested because obviously there's history between Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb, and you can't argue with what they did with Michael Penix, right? And I think if Grubby, who left the NFL to rejoin his former head boss, I think the fact you're going to Alabama and you know the quarterback situation, he must feel very comfortable with Ty Simpson and what they were able to. I think it's a win for Alabama. Now, does that mean Alabama is the Alabama of Nick Saban days? Because no, I don't think it's that kind of magic potion. But I do think offensively, Ty Simpson must fit what Ryan Grubb wants to do, and obviously fits what Kalen DeBoer wants to do. We're going to do this because this has been chaos here. We're going to try to hit a break early so we can try to get John Scheschuk on the other side, figure out what the madness is with our phone lines. We'll do that. And then hopefully we'll have it figured out for when Seth Greenberg comes on and we don't have to send him a link. That's what we're hoping to do. Right now we're talking Bird Dog. Those are our partners, and they set up awesome hunting experiences for you seasoned hunters, you brand new hunters, people who are just kind of interested. They'll set up all the logistics at a 5-star ranch, and all you got to do is have fun with your buddies, right? It's all about the fellowship and good times. And I'm telling you, I've done it, and it was one of the most fantastic trips I've taken. It was a vacation during the workday. It was fantastic. So Bird Dog is the way to do that. But they also are helping their landowners make money thanks to their efforts. And it's not just getting folks on your land. Yes, that'll help you get money, but there's other things that they can do, like knowing about the tax benefits that are out there. We all know about ag exemptions and wildlife, but there are many other opportunities that they can help find you. So if you're farming or running cattle on your land, Bird Dog will optimize and find you the tax benefits. Some of their clients are making an extra $100 to $500 per acre of land. They can be your personal consultant and help you maximize the income on your land. If you're a ranch broker, you need to talk to them as they can help your buyer or your seller understand the additional ways to make money. The website is birddogit.com. That is birddogit.com. And we are back here on TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the go out. No, it's not. It's hour number 3 of the program. This whole show has been a freaking train wreck. Actually, some parts have been very good. And our phone lines are working again. So let's go to the hotline right now. We are joined by John Scheschuk. John, how are you, buddy?
Hey, man, doing great. Good to hear from you, David. It's baseball season. All's right with the world. Let's get after it, brother.
Yeah, brother, let's do it. And he's joining us on the Buppy's Catering hotline. John, unfortunately, there was some chaos going on with our phone lines and then Zoom and then yada, yada. You missed Fat Pat in the last segment. We played it.
Hey, Fat Pat, in 2025, he still wins titles. He's been doing it for 26 years now, because I know in 99 that was the rally cry for that club, and he's still doing it today, man. So Fat Pat, tops drop, wins titles.
Yeah, it does, man. Let's talk about this team potentially winning a title. They came so close, man. Number 1 team in the land, based on what they have coming back, based on the intel, the new players coming in. What do you think?
I think it's warranted. I mean, when you're around that club, as I was on Saturday, just the confidence that they have from the coaching staff to the players to the support staff, just the belief they have. And, you know, really the mindset is it's a win in Omaha or bust. And I've listened to some of the TexAgs conversations and obviously follow TexAgs forums. And that seems to be the mentality throughout all of the Aggie fandom, is this year is win or bust. And to me, that's exciting. I love it. I think it's right. I think it's warranted. And I think that they're going to do it. I feel like it's their time, and knocking on the door last year and getting that close is only the appetite, fuels the appetite, I should say, for what they're going to do here in 2025.
How does a team, and I think this team, it doesn't seem like they play with a lot of pressure. I feel they play very loose from what we've seen the last couple of years, these players in particular. But how does a team with all these expectations kind of navigate through that with the pressures of being the number 1 team in the country, even a top 5 ranking, right? How do they navigate that through what is going to be, as it is every year, a very difficult SEC schedule?
Yeah, you know, way back in my day, I played on a team that was ranked number 1 for a decent amount of time in the season. And what you have to do is focus on the daily tasks. And that's cliche, but it really is true. You can't get caught up into it. As Coach Early says, it means nothing to be ranked number 1, you know, in early February. It's all about late June. And so you just have to focus on the daily tasks. And I think Coach Early's done a good job of establishing that culture with the team and not allowing them to get too far out in front of themselves. And again, those are some cliches you hear in sports, but they really are true. But I think that expectation level is there. I think that the style of Coach Early is much different than Schloss. And I think that style is going to help them stay relaxed, because he's still going to hold them accountable at a high level, but he's going to do it in a manner that's encouraging them. And he's going to do it in a manner that really builds them up, which was much different than Schloss. Schloss was a command and control type of a leader. And by the way, we've seen both of those approaches work. I mean, you look at Dabo Swinney on the football side, and you look at somebody like Schloss on the baseball side, they're drastically different in their styles. Both of them can work, but I think Early's going to be a nice mix of those, where the players really enjoy playing for him, yet he still holds them strictly accountable at a high level.
Talking to John Scheschuk here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. So let's talk about the transition from being the hitting coach to the main guy. Your first gig where the players wanted you. They basically handpicked you to be their head coach, to stay and win a national championship. There's going to be some bumps and bruises on the way, because this is going to be his first foray into it. But when you have a veteran team like this, you know, how much of it is it just making sure that you don't rock the boat too much, but also put your imprint on the team?
That's exactly right. You just want a steady guide. I really don't think it's going to be difficult for him. He's an even-keel guy from what I know of him. I don't see him getting emotionally up and down and going on wild swings. He seems to carry himself on the daily, you know, from an even perspective, which I think will do great wonders for this team. So I don't think that transition is going to be that huge for him. He's already had the fall to deal with the politics of being a head coach in a major program. He seems to have handled that well. I've heard him speak publicly several times. He does that well. And then, of course, it's all about that staff with Jason Kelly and Caleb Longley and Will Fox, down to Hutch and the stability that Hutch brings. And, just throughout the organization, I think stability's there. So I don't think it's going to be some crazy, transition for him compared to somebody who's never been around the A&M program. Now, this is going to be important on the game day side. That's one thing Schloss was really good at. Is I think about the 3-2 pitch a couple years ago in the regional with the lefty that came in and threw the slider in a clutch situation. I mean, those are game day, in-game decisions that Early's going to have to really learn. And there's no way to learn that except by doing it. So I'm curious to see how he manages the game from that perspective. But from an overall perspective, I think the transition is going to be just fine, and his leadership is going to do great.
Talking to John Scheschuk here on TexAgs Live. All right, Jace Lavalette. We know the expectations. We know he had him as a freshman. He had him as a sophomore. He keeps getting better. What does year 3 look like for Jace Lavalette?
A lot of the same. Jace seems to be a guy that also manages those expectations that he has on himself and on the program very well. He knows his draft stock's high. He knows the team's really good. He knows he's the leader of the team. He knows all these things, and honestly, he just handles it well. And I think this is the proliferation of what I'll call the professional athlete in the college game. Jace has been this guy since he was, probably in high school, I would guess. I know he played for the Texas 12 program, and they played in really high-level tournaments. And so he's been in the spotlight for a long time. This is not new to him. He's played in this league multiple years, as we know. So I think you're going to see more of the same for Jace. I think he'll, produce in the 25 to 30 home run range and have big RBI numbers and probably hit around 300 like he's done. So I expect more of the same from him.
All right, then I'll follow that up with Gavin Grohovac. I feel like when I talk about Jace, I automatically want to talk about Gavin because Gavin is kind of in the same shoes that Jace was a year ago. We said the same thing last year. He lived up to it his freshman year. What do we expect from Gavin in year 2?
Yeah, the first time I saw Gavin was in the fall of his freshman year, and he looked, like he did on the field in the spring. Everybody got to see it at that time, but he's just a grown man in a very young person's body. But he looks the part. He carries himself with that confidence. He performed very well last year, of course, and the same thing. I think you'll see 20 to 25 home runs out of him. I think his average may improve some this year as he learns how to drive the ball to the right center field gap, and especially with Coach Early and Coach Longley continuing to work with him on that hitting side. I expect his defense to be rock solid. I know he puts in time on that too. So, Gavin, Jace, Caden Kent, those kind of guys are really professional ball players. They really are. And so I would expect them to produce at the same level, if not better than they did a year ago.
All right. Well, offensively, I think we all feel comfortable, even if those guys don't reach the same numbers. I think overall this lineup is going to be phenomenal. Getting Ryan Prager back, though, right? To me, teaming him up with Justin Lampkin there in the rotation. Let's just talk about Prager for a moment because he was an ace last year, and you get him back.
Yeah, this is what I love about the current situation we have in college sports. A lot of people complain about NIL and about the money these guys are making and about the transfer portal and all that stuff that you guys have exhausted on TexAgs. But this is exactly why I love it, because there's zero chance that Prager's on this team without NIL. Zero. He's in professional ball right now, and he's going on and chasing his dream. But I love the fact that a guy can get paid and come back and finish his degree and finish what he started at an institution. And Prager is a perfect example of that. I mean, what an impressive person. Forget about baseball. What an impressive person. Just his nature of being articulate, and he's a very sharp person. I mean, he's going to be a super successful human being. But I'm just excited to see him back in the maroon and white on the baseball field because he's going to crush it. There's zero doubt about that. If there's anybody on this team that I feel like is going to perform barring injury, it's Prager. He just has that mentality that you need and, of course, has the stuff to go with it. So excited for him to get out there on Friday nights and really dominate the SEC and really the national landscape as well.
I'm intrigued by the bullpen. Obviously, I miss Evan Oschenbeck, and I wish that they would have had that junior college ruling when he was considering coming back. That being said, what do you think about this bullpen?
Well, there's a lot of questions out there, and some of the new guys are going to have to come in. Clayton Freshcorn is a JC transfer. I know he's got a big arm. I'm curious to see what he does. I'm curious to see what Brad Rudis does. I mean, you talk about just the model of consistency. I was talking to Jason Kelly Saturday night, and he mentioned that Rudis is hitting some twos, 90, 91, 92 on the velocity. And that's really good because he's a strike thrower and he's a super competitive guy with no fear. So I'm excited to see what Brad Rudis does with a couple of ticks up on the velocity meter. I think he might be able to do some damage. Of course, you got Stewart with the experience. I think Stewart will come in and do, great things out of the bullpen like he did last year as well. So while there's some question marks there, you have a mix of some new guys with some experienced guys who I think will bridge that gap that Aschenbach left. Of course, I'm with you. I wish he was on this roster. If he's on this roster, I mean, man, that's about as stacked as it gets. But he's not. But I think some of these guys I just mentioned will step in and do a good job.
Are there any position players or maybe a pitcher that we're maybe sleeping on? It's hard to say that we're sleeping on because we keep naming players that we're excited about. But is there maybe a name out there that you're like, you know what, keep your eyes on this guy?
Yeah, I think Freshcorn's one of them. I think he'll do big things this year for the Aggies. I want to see Weston Moss. Weston Moss is poised to have a breakout year. He's got great stuff with a 4-pitch mix. And, he's a guy that I think could really do something out of that bullpen for us. And then, on the positional side, Terrence Keel Jr., I know he was on with Bronny recently. I'm excited to see what he can do. I think he's going to come in here from a cultural perspective and really add value. And, of course, his athleticism is going to be the same. And then you've got the transfers in Gavin Cash and Wyatt Hensler. Both those guys come in pretty highly regarded. I know Hensler had quite a few home runs and RBIs up there in his prior school in the Ivy League. So those are some guys that some names have been thrown around that I think will have big impacts for our team this year.
John, I asked Livingstone this. I'll ask you, just how important is it when you are a contending team with veteran players to be player-led, right? Yes, obviously Coach Early's influence is going to be a major part of it, but you also need your veterans to be the vocal group and also lead by example.
Every great team, that's what's required. The coach can only do so much. The coach, can bring the horse to the trough, but you got to drink, right? And the guys in that clubhouse are the ones that are going to drive this team in any sport to the highest level. And you saw that last year. Of course, Schott's he's a great leader for this team. By the way, he's a really good baseball player too. He doesn't get the accolades he probably should just because maybe his physicality or his tools, aren't at that elite pro level, but who cares? I mean, the guy's a really good baseball player. He was probably the best hitter on the A&M team last year, and he's also a really good leader. I think Caden Kent's going to do a nice job leading this year. I'm hearing that he's really taking the bull by the horns on that. He's a vocal guy. He's not going to be your best friend out there. He's going to be your teammate, and there is a difference. And, of course, Jace and Gavin and Prager and all the guys we've already talked about, they're going to be the ringleaders, and they'll do a great job holding that team to the standard required to win it all.
I'm glad you brought up Hayden Schott because he is number 12, and I can't think of a more deserving player on this roster. They're all deserving, right? But there's something about him, along with having that great bat. He's got a personality and a relationship with his teammates that you just feel. You see it on Instagram posts. You see it in the clubhouse. Like, there's something about him that people just kind of gravitate to.
Yeah, he has that personality. Even at the 12 for 12 dinner on Saturday night, I mean, just the way he commands the room. And, he kids around a lot, and I like that about Hayden. I think it's cool. It's his personality. But he's serious under there, too. I mean, the guy wants to compete and wants to win, and he knows what it takes to be successful in this league. He came in with a, just incredible year transferring last year or, the year before and then playing for the Aggies in 2024. He did a great job. So I'm excited to see how he responds really as one of the true leaders and established players on this team. And, there's one other pitcher I want to talk about real quick, too, and that's Isaac Morton. I keep hearing about his stuff, and I'm curious to see him with the post-Schloss effect. I know there was a lot of fear in those pitchers with the way Schloss managed. Schloss was really tough on him and just pounded him. And I'm excited to see a guy like Morton who can maybe breathe a little bit and let that stuff take over. I think he's another guy on the mound that could potentially do some great things for the Aggies and, help solidify that bullpen and help solidify that pitching room from not only a leadership perspective as a returner, but from a stuff perspective as well.
We're a little bit of what, I guess 9-10 days away from the beginning of the season. Elon coming to town. Just this team's going to win early series. I fully expect that. But how important is it for guys to not put too much pressure themselves early on, just to let the baseball come to them. If I probably need to use a better term than that, but just let the season kind of unwind and not press too much early on.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's just a pitch-by-pitch, present focus. And that's going to be very difficult to do with the expectations. But, with a team like Elon, they're going to have them so what I'll call out-rostered that they're going to win those games. But when that first loss comes, and let's hope it's not for a while, heck, let's hope it's not forever. But when it comes, I think some of that pressure will be relieved. I remember years ago, A&M got out of the stretch with a huge win streak. I think it was 25 or 6 games. This is many years ago. And you can just sort of feel that pressure mount. So when that first loss comes and they can breathe a little bit, I think they'll really settle in and start to play. And it's going to be exciting. It is going to be an exciting year with the best Aggie baseball team I've ever seen on paper, and it'll be exciting to see that come to fruition.
John, I hope to see you soon, man. Thanks so much for making some time. We'll talk to you very soon.
You bet. Appreciate it, man. Have a good day.
You too. John Scheschuk there on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break. I think we're going to have Seth Greenberg. I hope we have Seth Greenberg next on the other side. We'll talk some basketball to close out the hour here on TexAgs Live. Right now, the difference is real with Rollo Insurance. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for, doing the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. They can write any form of insurance to anyone in the great state of Texas, and they want to make sure that they put you in the right insurance situation. If you have a goal, but you don't have a plan behind it, it's going to get difficult to get that accomplished. And sooner or later, you're going to have to put things back together. A call center, an automated phone tree, your personal agent's cell phone number, that's actually the way to go. You don't want to call a phone tree. You want to be able to reach out to your agent right away. And that's why they do it there at Rollo Insurance. Check out the website /TexAgs. RolloInsurance.com/TexAgs. Call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to RolloInsurance.com/TexAgs. Super excited about our next guest here on the Bumpy's Catering Hotline. Let's talk to ESPN's Seth Greenberg here on the program, former coach of Virginia Tech, South Florida, several other stops. Seth, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Doing great. A little brisk here in beautiful Avon, Connecticut. Besides that, life is good.
Well, happy to have you here on the program. I want to start off with A&M and the job Buzz Williams has done. For a team that struggles offensively at times, they sure have an identity of just playing all out defensively, offensive rebounding, you name it. What are your thoughts on A&M and how you see them going throughout the season?
Actually, one way they play, I can relate to it because I think it's a little bit like my Virginia Tech teams played. They have an identity. They impose their identity on the game, and that's really the essence of winning. You know, the team that has the ability to impose their identity on the game. They impact the game defensively. They make you feel uncomfortable. I always say there's certain teams that are teams you don't want to play against because the preparation is one thing, but then in real life you can't simulate what they do in your preparation. And to me, A&M is one of those teams. You can't simulate the way they go after the glass. You can't simulate their ability to switch and get into people. You can't simulate their physicality, their depth, their toughness. So, when I look at A&M, I look at a team, they're a team that other people just don't like to play against, and they can come out in waves. So they wear you down. They literally wear you down physically and emotionally because once you make those mistakes, they take advantage of them.
How has Buzz Williams evolved from his days there at Marquette to Virginia Tech, now to A&M? Just what have you seen his coaching style evolve? Where have you seen it evolve?
It was surely a hell of a lot better dressed. I mean, goodness gracious, why is he sweating through all those nice suits? I mean, if you're going to sweat as much as you do, as he does, I'm surprised he doesn't go with the quarter zip. At least you just throw that in the wash and you're good to go. But no, I think Buzz is involved in terms of, I call him the great philosopher, Buzz Williams. You got to watch those videotapes. I mean, he and Aristotle and Socrates, I think they were all together hanging out. But, as a coach, I think, one, he connects with his players. I mean, you don't play as hard as his teams play unless you connect with your players. They've got to play for you, and that's a gift. His genuine concern for his players enables him to connect at a level that they're in it with him. And I always used to say that, you'll win the games you're supposed to win, but to win the games you need to win, those guys got to be in it with you. So I think that's the first and foremost, his greatest gift. I think his assistant coaches know exactly who can play for him. It's not acquiring talent; it's acquiring talent that can play for your head coach. And then finally, I think, he's comfortable in a certain style, and the style is evolved. They're not living and dying with threes, which is against some of the analytics per se, but the complexity of what they do defensively makes them really, really hard. So I think the complexity of what they've done defensively is a little bit how he's evolved. And then, offensively, he keeps it simple, but with a purpose that, his rebounder is always in position to rebound. The ball's in his playmaker's hands. I mean, like I used the Aboski late game shot against Ole Miss. He just finds a way to put guys in position to make the right play.
Seth, how concerned, though, offensively are you when you got a guy like Wade Taylor who can score at will whenever he wants, but this team this year routinely, and really the last couple of years, does go on these scoring droughts where, teams go on 8, 10, 12, 14-0 runs on them?
Yeah, that's a concern. If they can't turn you over and they can't get to the offensive glass, at times they can get stepped. But they're not alone. Tennessee goes through that same problem. You go right. It's funny. I was just talking to a head coach in the Big 12, and the inconsistency I think is an epidemic, except for Auburn and Duke. We're seeing that. I think we're seeing that across the board. In terms of a little bit of inconsistency. And, when you're not a great shot-making team, Wade is terrific. When he was out, obviously, there was a huge drop-off. But you're not a great shot-making team. You're going to have stretches, especially when you're playing in the league you're playing in. There's no rocket share games in that league. And the scouting is great, and the preparation is great. And, unless you got guys that can just go get it, go get one, I think everyone has lulls in the course of the game, and you just got to play through them. And then you got to find a way to get extra possessions. And that's how they survive their lulls, because they'll have that that moment where they'll get boom, offensive rebound, steal, deflection, transition, and then even though they went on an 0-8 run, there's bam, 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 and they flip it, and that's again part of their DNA. There's got to be trade-offs in everything you do. If you want to be a great offensive rebounding team, you know what? You've got to get big physical guys that can pursue the basketball. If you want to be a great defensive team, you're going to have to be athletic and long, and you're going to give up a little bit, maybe sometimes offensively, to have the DNA and the identity you want. But I think that's a conscious trade-off. Would you like to be the best of everything? Sure you would. But it's hard to find those guys. And then it's hard to keep those guys. So I think that, what Buzz's staff has done, even though they have those drafts, is they've gotten Buzz Williams type guys. And that's a good thing because now he's comfortable coaching guys he can really connect with.
Talking to Seth Greenberg here on TexAgs Live. Seth, the Ags get a little bit of a break before they go on the road Saturday and take on Missouri, who's hot right now. Talk to us a little bit about what you've seen from Missouri.
I love Missouri. I think Dennis is doing a very similar to what Buzz is doing. He's getting hard playing, tough winning players. They've gotten older. Last year was an anomaly. The first year he takes over the job, they win 25 games, go to the NCAA tournament. Last year they had a bunch of injuries. Caleb Grill, the pickup Caleb Grill was a huge pickup for him. That dude is playing his tail off. But they're hard to play against. They get to the line, you guys get to the line. They compete on the glass, you guys compete on the glass. They have guys that can rack it and make plays. So do you guys. And then they shoot it a little bit better, for sure. I mean, like Grill really can shoot it, but they're playing with a lot of confidence, and they come at you with numbers. Which again, I think it's a what I call a good on good game. Like we have a game tonight, Marquette, St. John's, good on good game. Marquette shoots a little bit better. St. John's offensive rebounds a little bit better. Both of you played hard to play against. I think the Missouri A&M game is a good on good game. I mean, I think that is going to be a fun game to watch.
Seth, how does it work at ESPN? So you've got all these games on. You got to be able to report on them a few minutes later. Like, are you guys just in the back room with a bunch of TVs and you got your notepad out? Just kind of give me a little bit of your perspective, how you take in all these games.
I take it in like I did when I was coaching. It's all about the preparation. So in other words, I do scouting reports. I'm sitting here at my desk right now. I'm doing a scouting report on today's games, and then updating my scouting reports on games that were played yesterday and the day before. So you're going into it with what I call the essence of the team. Who are they? How they win. Then I never leave the desk. Like some guys go and sit in chairs. I just sit at the desk, and we have a battery of 8 televisions, and obviously you got to focus on the one for sure that you're going to be speaking about at that halftime. But you follow games on stat broadcast. You're following games on watching. Like your timeouts. You flip to you're watching another TV that's going on. We've got a researcher in there that's kind of filling us in on some trends going on in games. So if I have to lock into a situation like late game, we can pull up plays that are happening, prior, so I can, take a look and see, like, how are they doing this? So-and-so went on a 12-0 run, right? Well, how did it happen? So I look at the play-by-play, and then I say, can you pull up these 2 plays for me on a side monitor so I can look at it? But it really isn't, I've done this job now for 12 years, but I do it in a way that's no different than when I coached. It's really all about the preparation. I've got to know 150 to plus teams, and a lot of that is done not in the season. A lot of it's done preseason, doing scouting reports, and then you add to it. Like I've got a book in front of me right now. It's an old loose leaf binder. I mean, I do some stuff on my iPad, and I update teams and how they're playing, and each team has a page or pages. And I was actually doing something on A&M this morning, just in terms of where they're at, and has there been an adjustment and like to shoot a tad better, very much a tad better, from the 3-point lines from 121 to like 1-3. I kind of try to update, where things are, and just to get a feel for what that team is all about. You know, I used to say, who are they and how they win? What's the essence that makes a team special? And that's what I need to do, and that's what I do. I start in June because of transfer portal, so much change. I do 3 hours a day every day from the middle of June right to the start of the season, and go watch practices in the fall. And of course, I did this thing for 33 years. You know, speak to my coaching friends and just preparation. No different than probably what you guys do when you get ready to do a show.
Seth, I'm looking at Joe Lunardi, and I think he has 13 teams in the tournament right now. Obviously, things can change because those teams have to play against each other, and there's going to be some cannibalism there. How do you see how many? I mean, do you think 11 teams is possible in the SEC? Do you think 12 potentially is possible? How do you see it kind of playing out?
I think 11 or 12 is. I think 12 is crosswash. I think 13 because you know. Here's the thing: you can cannibalize each other, but you're playing a quad one game every single night. I mean, that's what you're doing. I think there's only 2 games that you're not playing a quad one game, so you're legitimately getting a chance to collect quad one wins that will separate you from anyone else. Look, everyone knows this is the best league in college basketball. I say it all the time: the investment equals the expectation. The SEC invested in college basketball and coaches and facilities and infrastructure, and this is the result. So are you going to punish a team because they're playing in a league where every single night it's an absolute war? No, I don't think you will. So, yeah, I think this can maintain. You know, who knows? I mean, I used to team like Arkansas, so they get to win against Kentucky. And their reward is they get Texas tonight, at Texas. But if they win that game, that's going to be their 3rd quad one win. And all they do is play quad, and then they got Alabama this weekend at home. That will be their 4th quad win if they win the game. Well, I got a question: have you beaten Kentucky? You know, at Kentucky, at Texas, Michigan, and Alabama just to start the first week of February? How many teams have 4 wins as good as that? And you don't have any bad losses. Like Pitt last night lost to Virginia at home. They're a bubble team. That's a quad 3 loss. You're not getting a quad 3 loss in the SEC. And you're not getting opportunities to get quad 1 wins in the ACC. So, yeah, I think it is a reality. Yeah, you know, the whole key is, you know, we talk about who gets in, who doesn't get in, but the biggest thing when it moves on is seeding, you know, because it determines your path to advancing. But, yeah, the league is that good. Great coaches, great venues, great ownership, great passion, different styles of basketball. The league is that good.
So let me close out with Cooper Flagg. He's lived up to the hype. I look at his numbers. I watch his highlights all the time. 20 points a game, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 32 steals. He's got 26 block shots. The guy is just when you watch him as a coach, you know, I know as a fan what I think, but as a coach, what makes him special?
He impacts the game every time down the floor. And he can take over a game without even you realizing he's taking over the game because he always makes the right play. He always makes the right play. He never chases anything. He takes what the defense gives him. He's an alert defensively. You know, I was in a practice on Friday before their Carolina game. He's an incredible teammate, but you know, his gift is his basketball IQ and his understanding of making the right play. Like he scored or assisted on the first 15 points against North Carolina. And it wasn't like he was trying to take over the game. He was just making plays. Just taking what the defense gives him. And he's got an incredible skill set for a 6'9" guy with a 7'2" or 7'1" wingspan. But I think it's his presence and his poise and his commitment to being a winning player that makes him just so good. And, you know, to me, as a coach, he's just fun to watch because he plays with great confidence, but with no ego.
Seth, this was great stuff, man. Thanks so much for making a few minutes for us. I hope to do it again around tournament time.
Great. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the season.
You too, man. Seth Greenberg there on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Appreciate his time here on the program. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with a short final segment. Want to get your text messages in at 979-693-1150. It's TexAgs Live. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Auto Insurance Studio. A couple things. Josh Pate, it was great, but it was short. It wasn't short, but, you know, when you've got Luch, Pate, Nuño talking, I'm talking about myself in third person. That's great. A 9:35 segment won't do it justice because, you know, we have hard outs at the end of the hour. So what we've decided to do is the old switcheroo. Nick, we're moving them to 9 a.m. because then we have a buffer.
Huge.
I'm
not tired of the winning.
No, we win on this show. I heart Pate. So that's what we're going to do on this show. We're going to continue to do that. So we will do that starting next week. I got to play with some other guests to just kind of move them around, but I think Josh thinks that 9 a.m. And he was great. Seth Greenberg? Like, more of him, please. What'd you think?
Yeah, he's awesome. I really like his breakdown of the Aggies. I mean, I'm glad you asked him how he takes in all of the games, because we think college football is a lot, right? There's 30 FBS programs. There's like 300 college basketball teams you got to pay attention to, so it's kind of crazy.
And I liked what he said. I'm trying to get it right, but you know, what makes this team special, and how do they win? And that's how he kind of goes about doing his scouting reports for these games. And I think that's just maybe we'll kind of incorporate that into when we start looking at these teams that A&M. We kind of do that in our own way, but he simplifies it, right? What makes them special, and, you know, how do they win games? Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. All right, Reed, I know you got a couple things you want to end the show with.
Yeah, so earlier we were talking about tennis, and I just have some more, just stats on that. So unfortunately, number 9 men's Aggies did lose this weekend to Pepperdine, 6-1. But on the other side of that, women's tennis, obviously number 2, bringing home their 11th straight victory, 60th home win in a row. It was a 7-0 win against Sam Houston. We started off with Daria Smetnikov. I hope I'm saying that right.
Pretty close.
And Mia Kupres started off hot with a 6-0 win, followed by Nicole Kieran and Jeanette Murals beating the Bearcats 6-2. Mia Kupres also had a solo performance, securing her 8th straight victory of this weekend. Dominated. She went 6-3 and then again 6-3. And then Lexington Reed also picked up her 10th straight win, going 6-0, and then again 6-2. Coach Mark Weaver says, overall it was a good day for us. We played some really good tennis on a few courts. On a few of the other courts, we made some things a little more difficult than we needed to, but we were able to push through.
All right, thank you very much, Reed. Good job there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Thanks to all of our great guests today, Joni Taylor, Josh Pate, Justin Lanham, Charean Williams, Seth Greenberg, John Scheschuk. Tomorrow on the show, Recruiting Country, Ronnie will be with us, Pounding the Rock, Luke and Tap. It won't be Pounding the Pebble. We've got Tom Schuberth. We've got Pat Henry. We've got Juan Haris. That and more. We'll see you mañana.